Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me as always, but very soon, but not yet, because he's still late, but we decided to start without him, is Tom. He'll be here in a minute, don't worry. But also joining us this week, the reigning king of longest show, although it won't be one tonight. We're going to keep this contained, people. Contained. It's Mr. Tyler Emerson, Scruby Wells. How you doing, buddy? It's good to have you back on. So we're going to talk about fixing Sylvaneth tonight. When you and I I think we were originally going to get together a little while back, and then we kind of moved schedules a little bit. But it was funny too because I was like, I sort of texted you earlier and was like, wait, what were we talking about again? And you were like, well, you said we were going to fix trees. Of course, yes, we're going to fix trees. That's exactly what I want to do. Especially since I got a couple games in against Sylvaneth this last weekend, so they're at top of mind for me. Yeah, it's indeed, indeed. Well, Tom can tell you more about the pleasure of that. All I know is all I know about Nine Sides was chopping lumber, so that was all that happened on that side. Um, so at any rate, we're gonna get to all that, but first we'll do a little news. Oh, it said okay. Hold on. Somebody said you're muted. Why are you muted? Yeah, you're not. Hold on. Yep, I can't hear you. I'm gonna fix it real quick. I'll fix it. Hold on. Sorry, everybody. Let's see. Should be that one. To go ahead and talk. Nope, it's not that one. I'll find it. It's not you. It's me. All right, go ahead and talk. Nope. One of these has to be the right one. Okay, talk again. Nope, still nothing. Sorry, folks. I apologize. I looked at my own sound and didn't look at... How would this not be coming through? Nope, still nothing, right? Go ahead and say something. Why can we not hear you? No, it's not you. I know it's not you. All right. We're just going to go through. Let's do this. Just talk about trees for a second.
Under. Actually, I should pull that up to see if it's a bit below.
Haha, there it is. We got your audio working just
All
as Tom
right.
joins. Okay.
Excellent.
All right, everybody. I apologize for that. Was really funny. Like we couldn't get Tyler's sound working, so
By the way, in other news events,
yes.
that didn't get a ban.
No, yeah, Tividar's Crusade. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I
Sorry.
preemptively picked that bad boy up.
Sure. It's a great legacy card. Anyway. All right, so Tom's here. Great. Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody, for the confusion there off the rip. Boy, oh boy, what a night it's been. Okay. So at any rate,
Oh, are we live?
yeah, yes, we're live.
Sorry, everybody.
Yes, Tom is playing Magic again, so there you go. You can all chastise him in the comments for that. At any rate, let's get into some news. There's not a lot. The rumor engine's up. It's a 40K thing.
It's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Looks like a chaosy, powery claw thing.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. All right. And next.
I don't care enough about it. Like, I just don't know what to say about it. Okay. Next. Nova.
Canceled. Officially
Yeah.
canceled. Yep.
Yeah.
It was probably the inevitability, but let's face it, we're all sad about it nonetheless. Like, it's a shame. It really is. I was very much hoping that it was going to happen somehow. Hope against hope. But here we are. So 2021. 2020 is officially the lost year of conventions. Stop tapping, Tom.
Did you hear that thumping? Sorry,
Yes.
I have
Oh yeah.
kids upstairs.
Oh, is that what it is?
Oh.
It's your children, not you tapping. Okay, that's fine. This is going to be an all-time great episode, I can tell already.
Absolutely, yeah.
Other news. So yeah, Nova's canceled. It's a shame. There we are. Nothing else to say about it. I understand where they made the call. 2021! Yay! Back with everything in 2021. Let's go for it. Okay. Warhammer, obviously, Games Workshop put out a nice statement. Thought that was really good in regards to sort of current world situation that's going on. Basically saying that Warhammer is for everyone. I thought it was a really good statement. So I liked it a lot, and I was glad to see them publish it. So thought that was real cool, and it was a nice, easy way to put a flag in the ground for them and say that, you know, we welcome everybody. Please come play our game in a positive way. Great, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, so other than that, the important part is that there is no AOS news. None.
Yeah.
None. And I have a theory about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my theory. I don't think we're going to get anything AOS for a while. I think we're steaming through 40K all the way to the release of Ninth Edition.
That's certainly what it feels like. Yeah. At this point.
I don't know about that.
I mean,
all right. Well, tell me your theory, Tom.
I am hoping against hope that we will have we will get a pre-order on the 19th. Like, so let me say it this way. I think July is 40K, like 9th edition, like all of July. And so I think that we might be able to slip in 1 week, like either pre-order on the 20th or pre-order on the 27th for delivery on the 4th of like a couple things. Like I think maybe the Sylvaneth box, maybe. But we'll see. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go spend all my elf money on magic cards. I mean,
okay, so let me tell you why I think you're wrong. Okay?
Yep.
Because they just ended their financial year. So Games Workshop financial year, their financial year ends in June, the first week of June.
Yep.
Okay. And they've just gone through an incredibly not great period.
Right.
Right? Because of like having to shut down for a while and having no sales, and like undoubtedly their investor report and everything that they're going to put out here in July is not going to be super great. Right?
Yep.
And if I was them and I needed to like super boost sales, I'd try to get 40K 9th edition out as quick as possible. Now, that's not to say that they won't also sneak in a little bit of AOS here and there. Right? Like, so I don't totally disagree with you. Like, you could see the Sylvaneth box.
Right.
Yes,
Like, it won't be the whole range.
No.
It won't be the whole range. But they had already stated a long time ago that we were going to get the box separate from the general release.
Sure. Which I think now is probably... I mean, they also mentioned that they reset the release schedule. Right?
Right.
So, my guess is they'll, like... For my Giants and the full Sylvaneth, we're probably waiting until after 9th edition.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Probably August.
Unless we get an off week in there. Like, they put out the Sylvaneth box set, and then it's mostly 9th edition, and then there's an off week, and they're like, and here's the Giants. Because it's a book in one kit. Right? It's a small enough release. Like, Sylvaneth, it feels like they'll actually need a lot of build-up to get that whole thing out. Right? Because there's so many.
Maybe.
Because there's so much in there. So, but I don't know. I would love to be wrong. Like, I would love to log on this Sunday and see, like, them Giants are coming, and I'll be like, yay! Yay! Or see that the elves are coming, and I'll be like, okay. Well, I'm happy for those people.
You think we're looking at August for the GHB?
I have no idea.
Yeah, no idea, because we haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, we have heard 0, which tells me it's not anytime soon.
Yeah.
Like, we know they're somewhere because they arrived, they got shipped, so we know they're printed.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
a question of when they think they can fit it in the release schedule now.
Yeah.
So, like, we have the bill of lading or whatever, so they're there, they're printed, they're done. If I had my guess, I would say August. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's the beginning of August, so that way we'll have enough time to take everything into account for NashCon, assuming that still happens.
Right.
Which I am going to doggedly assume it will until it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right.
So, we'll see. And yes, I agree with... I mean, the question was, is 40K going to have a lot of weeks, though, aside from 2 weeks of pre-orders? Well, and then I think IT, you kind of answered your own questions with, like, multi-parts would follow the starter box after a while. Like, yeah, they'll put out the starter box, and then they'll probably put out other releases. Because, like, the Necron versus Space Marine starter box, you saw that there's other things in the Necron range that are not going to be in the starter box, but that are in that big image of all the Necrons. So, like, they're going to say, here's the starter box, and then also here's the other Space Marine and Necron stuff over the weeks after that. The new big Satan and the new Silent King and the new big pyramid-y thingy and the new War of the Worlds walkers and on, right? I mean, they have quite a lot to release there.
Yeah, it's so good.
They are quite pretty. They're quite cool-looking models. So there you go. And then yes, as well as, of course, as somebody mentioned, that's an excellent point. Somebody else mentioned, we know Codex is like Death Watch are coming. Yes, and there's additional Codex stuff we know too. They have mentioned that. So at any rate, clearly it's going to be a bit of a drought of AOS for a little while, and that's fine. So be it. That's okay. I'm sorry for all the Lumineth players. I think that's unfortunate. I mean, look, I'm excited for those giants whenever they come. I really am. But I'll be happy to paint them later, as I am now. So I already did my army for this year, and I still have a couple more pieces I want to add to it, so I'm in no rush. But if you're a Lumineth player, I'm sorry for your luck, because you've waited a long time. You have held out, waiting for Tyrion's forces, and...
That's not nice.
Here you
That's
are.
not nice at all. Tyrion's forces.
And you're going to keep waiting. Because they're not part of this.
They're not. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I started selling off like a bunch of my elf stuff this week. Like a bunch of my high elf stuff. Just because the market's hot. And I've just lost really any interest in Lumineth.
This is a long gap. Like, this is what happens when hype goes cold, right? Like, when it goes too long.
I mean, we've been waiting almost 6 months at this point. And so, and I wasn't that really hot on them before. So I thought, you know what? I have a lot of other projects that I'm enjoying. And so I'm just going to do those. I'll shoot some people with my KO and call it a day.
Sure. As well, you spent this weekend shooting some people. We'll talk about that in a moment. Anyways, that's the news. So there's nothing else. Sorry, this is going to be how it is for a little while. Let's pick of the weekend. All right, Tyler, what would you like to share with everybody?
Cool. So we're talking about 40K. There was, let me get a few out here as usual, breaking the rules. We've got the Tabletop Tactics. They did a podcast video YouTube thing today. They are playtesters for 9th edition. And it was one of the best concise summaries of what they can talk about publicly right now, about all the work that's gone into it. They went through a little more detail and the perspective on most of what we know right now. Board sizes, command points, the raising of point values, which, Vince, you've talked about that in the past, or both you guys have talked about in the past.
Yep.
You don't just want to have a constant spiral of lowering and lowering point values.
Yep.
And so it sounds like it's roughly 2K is 1,500 to 1,600 is what we'll be looking at. And anyway, it's a really great summary of everything from the perspective. Those guys, I'm big fans of Tabletop Tactics. Lawrence, in particular, is a very well-known competitive 40K player. I don't know to what degree he's done a lot of ITC, but he's been very competitive in the UK 40K scene. And he's willing to critique publicly So when he says something is really good, I tend to trust him. And yeah, he's extremely pumped about the work that's gone into this edition. And there could be unintended consequences and surprises, as always, and things that'll need to get improved. But yeah, they're pretty excited over there. So if you're really curious, I'd definitely recommend checking that out to find out more details.
No, that's great. Look, if there's one thing I wish that AOS would steal from 9th edition, okay, it's not shrinking the board size. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of the little things we've seen so far.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I wish we would steal, it is generically increasing the points across the board.
Yeah.
Like, I would love it if like we would do the same thing in AOS, but in a not truly across the board, but mostly. So my perfect world would look something like this. Every horde, every horde-y infantry type thing would go up about 25 to 30%. Okay? Every single foot hero of like 6 wounds or less would go up maybe 5 or 10, like 10%, something like that. Like if they're 100, maybe they're 110, like a minimal amount, maybe 0%. Okay? Large monster heroes go up 10 to 20%, and regular monsters, like the Tree Lord, for example, who I'm sure we'll talk about tonight, right?
Yeah.
Would stay exactly the same or go down. Because right now we have this complete upside down valuation of units in the game, and non-hero monsters, just regular
Tree Lords,
behemoths. Sure.
Yeah.
But like this occurred to me when I was refining my list for NashCon and looking at things like a steam tank. It's a great example, right? Because that's effectively a behemoth, a non-hero behemoth, like not the one with the commander in it, just a regular old steam tank, right?
Yeah.
But the Tree Lord, honestly, probably the frigate and to a lesser degree the Ironclad fall into this, but certainly the frigate does.
Yeah.
But you could go on and on. You could pick these: the Gorgon, the Cygor, the right. We could pick a ton of these, and like the problem is that all of those things are basically useless in the meta concept of the game, right? Like how you win the game. They don't.
I was just looking. It looked like Seraphon is about the best. Yeah, sorry. It looked like Seraphon was about maybe the best they've done in terms of like the Celadon, obviously. But yeah, you're right. It is pretty systematic just looking down the list.
Yeah, and what I mean by that is at best, they kind of kill something. But like at a wound per point ratio that is always inferior, with defenses that are always inferior, right? With offensive capability that is likely inferior, not always, but likely. Right? And they are always one model.
Yeah.
So like
always.
It's exactly. It's just upside down in the actual, like, all else being equal. Like, I know nothing about the unit. I'll take 30 of anything over 1 of something. Because that's how you win a game.
Because it'll actually take an objective and hold it.
Right. Like, that has an innate point cost or value to it, right there.
Right.
Just being 30 things has a value to it.
Because of zoning, because of... like above and beyond the actual numbers, because of zoning and because of model count, yes, they are more valuable than the one-off non-hero.
Right. Not to mention that, yes, as has been pointed out, those monsters also often, many of them are designed to get really bad as they take damage.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
was your Luminarch this weekend? It was like a D3 damage on the laser.
but it's a D3 damage on the laser, but then you have to roll a 6 up to trigger it, right? Instead of the 2 up. Yeah, sure. Whereas some of them are actually quite resilient. So the ones that are less bad, that are sort of the top of this pile, are things like the Ironclad, where if the Ironclad gets beat up, yes, it's a shame that it can't fly or disengage as easily.
But it's going to do its job still.
Right, but its guns still all work. Right. Whereas if you look at something like the Chimera, right, or monsters like that, as soon as they take damage, they're in the toilet as far as efficacy goes.
Yeah.
Like, they get 3 wounds on, and they usually lose the only thing that makes them good. They'll have, like, 1 really good strong attack, and it will suddenly be, like, hitting on a 4, or instead of doing 5 damage, it now does 4 or 3 or 2, or if it did 6, it does a d6, which is wildly different in value, right? Just, like, all of a sudden, whereas any unit of 30... all lose 3 dudes, and that unit loses 0% of its efficacy. Yeah. Because you very rarely get 30 of anything into combat. You get 15 to 18 of a thing into combat in most cases. Again, base sizes make a difference, yada, yada, yada. Situations are situations. But your average contact point on a 30-person unit is about 15 to 18 models. Meaning you have 12 ablative wounds. That's a tough word to say. Ablative wounds. That you can just absorb and lose nothing.
Right. Yeah, I would hazard a guess that most single monsters that are non-heroes are 40 to 50% overcosted.
Yeah, I mean, like they're just or if just you horribly under effective. Yes. I would accept either. You could go the other way too. Like they could just get way more destructive. Right. Or defensive or whatever. Like, yes, they're just...
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. But yes, the point being that they are way overcosted for what they do.
Relative to the rest of the other options. Like, why? Why? Oftentimes you're looking at a monster that's 200 points, that's the same number you can get 20 to 40 infantry for. There is no universe where that ever makes sense for a non-hero. Right?
I'm trying to think about any non-hero monster. Like, obviously, the ships are an exception in KO, but that I have in any of my armies.
Yeah, the ships are an interesting exception because the extreme utility they bring.
You can put heroes in them.
You can put heroes in them. They can transport other units around. They can teleport effectively every round, right? They have a level of utility that sort of counterbalances.
I guess my coach, my black coach, would count for this, certainly.
Although your number one complaint of that is that it's not a hero and can't be a hero.
Right. But what I'm saying is that in general, I just don't build them unless a battalion requires me to have that min 1.
Sure. I mean, the Bastiladon's probably a good example of something that breaks this rule because it's still useful.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Something like Stonehorn Beast Riders, but that's because they have the Ogre rule backing them up that makes them count as 10 models because they're a monster.
Yep, like the War Shrine and Chaos, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Sure. But because it's a almost hero.
It's a fake hero.
Spells. Yeah, it's a fake hero.
Yeah. But those are the only ones. Like I wouldn't spend money on anything else.
Sure.
Like that's not like I take that back. Alistair said non-hero spider isn't bad. I agree with that. I like the deep striking spider. I still think he's overcosted.
Oh, the Skitterstrand? Yeah, he's definitely still overcosted, but he is the coolest hero. Yeah. Yes. Regular Mangler Squigs, maybe, but I like the Loon Boss.
They're overcosted.
Better. I just think the Loon Boss dwarfs them in quality. The Rogue Idol's an interesting one. There you go. That's maybe him because he has such an extreme utility to the army. I could see that.
That's a really good one.
But the fact that there's probably 100 of these war scrolls in the
game, and we were struggling to find the 5
name.
Yeah. So at any rate, that's what I would love to see. Employ that point. That was a heck of a rabbit hole we just went down. Yep. But it really got up my craw because as I was thinking about this, I realized that so many of the things that I love in the game are in this situation. And I spiraled into that this weekend after you left, Tom, and I was building lists and playing with steam tanks, and I realized there's just no universe where I want a regular steam tank in my list.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because it just doesn't do enough.
Right. Exactly.
Whether you're in an objective game or whether you're just talking damage or any of it.
Yep.
So hopefully we can make this not a deep rabbit hole, but I'm really curious. Well, I've got both of you here. Vince and I had talked a little bit about this. So in this process of he and I have been discussing on and off a little bit with you, Tom, and others of possible refinements or additions on the front of mission scenarios, victory scoring conditions to say complement GHs. So I think we're at a time right now where probably best to wait until we see 9th, 40K, and GHP 20. See what the landscape looks like from that point on, and then maybe there's some opportunities. So what I was talking with Vince about is I've chatted with many of our local ITC 40K guys, for example, about why do they enjoy ITC 40K. And I've played a little bit, but I don't have a good understanding. And one of the things they really emphasize is the implications that they've seen of being able to choose your own secondaries. So of course, in ITC 40K, you can choose 3 secondaries from a list of however many. There's 2 different categories. You've got to take 1 from each category. One is a kill category. One is a basically mobility category. So you got to have at least 1 kill and 1 mobility, which helps to generally diversify army builds. You have to be able to do both. And then you can take your third one from one of those 2 categories, or old school, which is the traditional 40K secondaries. Okay, so I'm just curious your guys' opinions on, so that's like a design style, a design choice of allowing players to choose their missions, choose their secondaries each game, and you've got a list to go. And of course, that's what we're seeing with 40K Ninth now.
Yeah, sure. Because they just absorb more or less. They ate the ITC thing.
Right.
My answer is no. I don't like it. I want it built into bespoke scenarios. I gave a couple examples with Tom this weekend because we were playing with secondaries because we were using all the multiplayer scenarios all weekend, which have those built in. Yep. Okay. And it wildly changes the game in interesting ways. Wildly changes the game. And the answer is those are completely random and they're just funsies scenarios. So it's not like I'd want to import those wholesale. But I want them designed and bespoke, and I gave a couple good examples to Tom.
Yeah, it was so funny because in the multiplayer scenarios, you score an objective point for every 5 damage you do. And so suddenly chaff is a liability.
Yeah.
You know what the best unit in the game was to be facing off against? Pink Horse.
Oh yeah. The Siege player dropped some pink horrors, and I was like, "Oh, about to get me some points."
Right.
Look at that! Look at that pile of 10 VPs. I dove into them face first. I was like, "Give me them!
They're all
give me them
5
VPs."
up, 6 up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just plow through all the wounds, and it's just you just watch the VP counter tick.
Right.
So just to finish the thought, so what I've consistently been hearing, and for example, I brought it up because what I heard strongly in that video by Tabletop Tactics with Lawrence and Bone, so I don't know what his actual name is. Everybody just calls him Bone or B-Bone. They were saying that the benefit of this choose your own secondaries is that generally, in their experience, it increases the range of viable variety in the game. So you can see more thematic armies because you can choose the army that you want to play. Maybe it's intensely jet bikes oriented, and then you choose secondaries that jet bike army can do a better job of actually scoring.
Sure.
I mean, you have to have some balance and be able to compete against the primaries.
The idea in both cases is to stop skews. I just like the idea that the scenarios themselves have them built in. That's the answer. Yeah. Because then you can be more intentional about it.
Because it's an example of the type, the one that we talked about was that the scenarios that pull you to the center, hold a point. How amazing would it be if the secondary was ones where you had to hold to secure zones on the outer edges of the board?
Yeah.
Where where it's pre-programmed to pull you against the actual main objective.
Yeah.
Where in order to score all the points, you have to dominate the board.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And you can do this in a lot of different ways. Let's get back to what we were doing. We've tangented too far. All right, okay. Tom, pick of the week. Go. We're still in this segment.
Yeah. I do need to mention. So we got NashCon potentially.
Yeah.
I also want to mention Siege World. And again, I'm not on here to endorse going. It's not my choice. Given the situation that we're in, just to add that disclaimer, this is not me promoting people going to events. It's promoting you having the awareness to decide whether you want to go to events or not. Just to clarify that. So we got Siege World coming up the weekend before NashCon. It's an amazing event. It's now 2 days, 2,000 points. A good friend Jeff Nauman runs it every year. It's outstanding. So we'll include the link to that as well, but just wanted to give folks a heads up that that's an option. And I think it's going to be at the Gateway Center in Illinois, kind of bordering Missouri and Illinois.
Nice. I will link to both of those. So if you are someone who wants to go to an event, there are a couple events that will happen at the end of August. So still a ways away, but who knows what the world looks like in 2 months, but there we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom, what do you got for a pick, buddy?
Yeah, friend of the show, Nico, published an article this week. Actually, I think it was just yesterday or today. On Tzeentch and Destiny Dice, and I would encourage everybody to check it out.
Nice. Awesome.
20,000 words.
I like your quick wrap up. I'll link Nico's article. For myself, I will shout out Mr. Mephisto and our Soulbound game that's going on every Friday on Mr. Meph's Twitch channel. We did our third game last week. It's been an absolute ton of fun. So if you want to understand why I might, if we get a new Stormcast book, why I'll be building an entire Stormcast army, but with Skaven, then you have to go watch the Soulbound show. Watch the Soulbound RPG show, and you'll understand why that project is slowly creeping into my mind, stronger and stronger and stronger, and I want to make the entire Ratcast army. So there we go. All right. Okay. So let's talk about some hobby time. Tyler, what are you working on, man?
Doing my usual. Well, been doing some work on those schemes.
Yeah, you have. You've got a butt. So Tyler obviously is somebody who's helped out a lot with the scheme since the very beginning. Tyler, Tom, and I really put them originally together, and he had a lot of good feedback. I read over it. I liked all of it. So we're going to be looking to make some of those updates. So if you're coming to NashCon, hopefully you'll see some new versions of them schemes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people to thank, have been getting feedback from: Jeff, Michael, Sam, Scott, Travis, Sean, Austin. Be annoying and list out names, miss anybody. And yeah, thank you guys. I'm still in love with the schemes, the format. It's brilliant. It adds so much to AOS, just a nice secondary layer, particularly the sort of Timmy, Nate. So it's cool combination of Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. The Spike it's really critical that you get your schemes in the NashCon scoring system that has been ported over to other events as well. And the Timmy is the flavor. They're so flavorful and different in what they can do to your armies. So yeah, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, right on. Okay.
TTS. If folks been doing a lot on TTS, so if you're not, maybe we can include a couple links to if people are still are curious. TTS Curious Tabletop Simulator about how to play AOS. There's obviously actual games and tournaments or one-day events at least that are going on at TTS right now. Maybe we can. There's a really good guide out there. If anybody hasn't seen it, maybe we can include a link to that as well, and a couple of maps. I've put together a big collection of preset battle plan maps that has everything that you would need to play a game. Deployment zones, territory, objectives, all the faction terrain, etc. Just try to make it as easy as possible for TOs, to run events and people to play games.
Nice. Awesome. I've been watching Rob's breakfast battles where he's playing on TTS. It's great fun.
Absolutely.
We'll call that a backup pick of the week. Yes. If you're interested to watch some bat reps, Rob, Honest Wargamer Rob, is doing a breakfast battle almost every day. So it'll be ready by the time you get up if you're in the States with me. Yeah. And it's awesome. He's playing a lot of different fun armies, so it's cool.
Yeah.
All right on. Tommy, what about you, buddy? What are you working on now that you're back at home? Obviously, our hobby time was this weekend playing a heck of a lot of Warhammer. Tom came down. We got, 5-6 games in?
Something like that. Yeah, it was good. I've been writing a D&D campaign. That's what I've been doing.
I'm glad to hear it, Tom. I'm glad to hear it. That is the correct answer. You have chosen wisely. Awesome. I look forward to finally wrapping this game up that has been going on for 6 years of our lives.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, that's quite an assumption you got there.
Sure, no, it's fair. You could always pull the old Douglas Adams and go for and it turns out that we have the fourth game in the increasingly inaccurate Eberron trilogy. That could always happen.
Yeah.
I saw him in person in 2001 at MIT, and he was like everything you could have ever hoped for. He gave a talk for an hour and talked to everybody. Yeah, he was remarkable.
I'm sure.
And then that was anyway. Yeah, it kind of brings up because he passed away that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, no. For myself, my hobby time has been an interesting and strange week. I finished up that Dracon that I shared out this weekend, the big dragon, the Dracon from Creature Caster that I'll use as a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. He comically fits on that 92 mil base, comically. But he fits. It was a heck of a balancing act to make sure he was on there correct and not going to fall over. Then I had to repaint my wife's shoes. That was a favor that I did for her.
That was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those were her shoes that she got married in because I wear my Doc Martens only and all the time. And it's the only pairs of shoes I own. And I've worn them every day since I was 15. So I told her I was going to wear my Docs to our wedding, that I was not going to get dress shoes. And I was very steadfast on that. and she was accepting, and she actually brought her own. She went out and got a white pair of Doc Martens, and so I repainted them for her.
That's awesome.
And then now I'm working on this bust that I've had for a long time. I doubt it'll show up, but it's this guy right here. He's like some warlord guy. He was from. It's an older bust. I don't remember exactly when it's from, but I've had it for a while. I've always been happy with it, and it's more chance to play with with oil paints and stuff like that in interesting ways. Especially since he's got a lot of nice crinkles and wrinkles and evilness in his face. So one of the problems with oil paints is that you can paint so fast, and then you have to wait for things to dry. I'm just like, oh, I accomplished what I would normally have taken 6 or 8 hours to do with acrylic paints in like 45 minutes. Now I got to find something else to do. So it's a problem. Somebody asked, did I use an airbrush on the shoes? Yes, absolutely. I used an airbrush on the shoes. I had to seal them many, many times. You talk about using varnish in between layers, because I don't know if she's going to wear them out or not, but if she does, I had to, and I don't know how that varnish is going to hold up, so we'll see. But that's my hobby time. I'm just waiting on my next order to arrive, which is the Adeptus Mechanicus stuff, so I can continue working on the Whirlwind's Edge army. So.
Indeed.
Tom saw the thing I ordered for my display board when he was down here.
I did.
And it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a hell of a thing.
Live up to the hype, Tom?
Yeah, I've known about it, so.
Yes.
Okay, right.
It's going to be a lot of fun, so we'll see. That'll probably be what I'll work on here sometime soon, once I get the units done. That's
a pretty extraordinary looking table you guys had. I saw the photos over the weekend. There's all the beautiful armies and the terrain. Yeah, it look pretty sexy.
It's I've tried to get a good selection of different pieces of terrain there. I should add a couple more. I've got some of the really old like Warhammer Siege towers, like from the old castle. I've got that castle. Thought about just getting that out and painting that, right? So I'd have another big castle thing to add. So because those are fun.
Nice.
Anyway, right on. Let's talk about trees, guys.
Let's do it.
Let's go green, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Sylvaneth. Is there any book in 2019 that dropped with more of a thud than Sylvaneth? In 2019 being the key phrase there.
I mean, the irony being it was another delay last summer.
Yeah.
Sure, it was also delayed, yes. True.
Define thud.
Like, it happened, and we talked about it for the brief second that the thud echoed. And then it was gone. And here's the funny part about it. Every time I've ever heard somebody list the books that came out in 2019, they always forget Sylvaneth, right? People will just go through the list like, oh, we got Fire Slayers and this and that and da 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 da, and they'll be like, I feel like there's one more. What's the other one? And somebody will be like, no, I feel like you got them all. And then finally it'll come. Yeah. Oh, that's right, Sylvaneth came out too. I mean, I've seen it happen so many times that book just gets forgotten.
Yeah. I can't remember a book that I'm more conflicted about in the history of AOS, let's say, because there's so much that I love about that book, actually.
You're in too deep.
And I think, quite possibly. But being in too deep, maybe I am highly biased to underrate, to think that book is underrated.
Maybe. Like, what I would say is this. I think that what didn't help it, let me say it this way, was the fact that like everything that actually got released for Sylvaneth was like lame. And what I mean by that is like you couldn't get the hero unless you got Loon Curse, right? Like that was one of the big draws.
True.
So if you got blocked out of Loon Curse, which by the way dropped way before the book did.
Way before.
Okay. Like a month, like originally it was a month scheduled before, and then it ended up being like 3 months before. So like when the book came out, you couldn't get Loon Curse. That was the only new model other than the terrain, which no one wanted replaced.
Yeah.
And Vince would argue that it was a worse, like mechanically, it was a worse addition, a worse change. He doesn't like the way the new trees are.
Nope. Hate them.
But for like, I don't agree with that critique. My frustration is the fact that they nullified so many other people's Sylvaneth Wildwoods.
I mean, you can still use the old Wildwoods.
I know you can. But people like that's not the response people had. Does that make sense?
I understand. Every time I've ever seen Sylvaneth Woods now are let's play the touching tips game. Of how many of these stupid little bases. Oh wait, this one's too big. Hold on, I need to get the smaller one because if I get the smaller one out, I can get 5 little extenders instead of 4 or whatever.
Try doing it on a computer.
Oh my god.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just get this out of the way up top. We've said it 100 times in the show. I don't want to make this the whole discussion. They did wrong with the woods. Period.
So I obviously, I agree with you guys on that. What I haven't heard enough discussion of is what I would consider a legitimate solution. The solution that has been pointed to, the first person that I had heard it from was Scott Sproul, my friend, before you guys were talking about it. And this was like 2 years ago now or something. And yeah, he mentioned the idea of don't just give us one wood and then you make terrain.
Yep.
Have you mark the terrain. You have a way to, and it essentially has the same function.
Yep.
Well, that has the potential issue of you then have randomness, lack of predictability. You're more at the whims of terrain, location, etc. I mean, you've got to have rules that actually smooths out variability, smooths out randomness. And I haven't really heard much discussion or consideration of, the details of that. I like the idea, and obviously it would be nice to just have a single wood.
I disagree. I don't see any problem with it. I honestly don't. I don't know what you mean. Everybody has whims of variability to this kind of stuff. Okay?
Okay.
And control in what method? Over the course of the game, you might literally turn every piece of terrain on the board into a thing you can teleport into. Like feasibly, if it's generatable at the same rate, let's just assume it's a 1-for-1. Every spell, every trick, everything that does it now, that makes woods, does this, but becomes more reliable because you don't get zoned out, blocked out, changed out of being able to place your woods down, as you will now. Right? That will happen sometimes. Okay? So it's quite reasonable in my mind if we just swap this out 100%. In fact, I'd love to play some games like this.
Yeah.
So like, just like I would love to see somebody experiment with this, where instead just 1-to-1 swap it. Every time you cast a spell, do a thing, use the acorn, whatever, right? Use the ancient, whatever, and you make a wood. Instead of doing that, just boom, a terrain piece does it. Use the same range restrictions. All that still happens, right? And watch how much smoother it gets. Because you're going to be reliable. You're going to be 10 times as reliable because I can't zone you out of doing it.
And well, okay. So, like for example, would you just keep the wholly within 6 as it stands? So whatever the terrain piece size is, you just got to be wholly within 6 of that and more than 9.
Everything else is everything else remains the same. You're saying for teleporting into the woods, right?
Yeah.
Everything else remains the same.
Yeah.
Like I'm swapping nothing else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just your ability to teleport into these things would get easier because you're not dealing.
You
with
don't have to worry about placing things. You just mark.
Yeah.
If enemies are on it, who cares? You can still do it. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't need to. It doesn't need to heed whether or not enemies are on it. Right.
Yeah.
And then we're not wasting the time with the touching tips game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're not having to buy a bucket load of the wood kits because you're wanting
transport
to have
them to tournaments.
3. Yeah, because you often, I've been finding you need 3 of the minimum size footprint just to sneak a wood in.
Right.
And then you may often want 2 of those at least in a game.
Yep. And in addition to all that, you're not dealing with the actual physical deficiency of the woods. It is an inarticulate model to play with and position, just as the old woods were. I understand they tried to create this space, but oftentimes you end up with sort of 3 to 4 bases. Yeah. And what ends up happening is then you're doing this. You're doing. You can't see my hands, obviously, because you guys can't see me. But I'm doing the reach over and reach under thing where you're trying to go over top and just set. Okay, this guy's right. He's. Hold on. There you go. Okay, he's right there.
Or you're sawing off half. The treetop. You're sawing that off, putting a magnet in it, and removing it. Kind of the equivalent of what we used to do, but just a little bit different. Yeah, just to have that flexibility. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, again, I see this as the root issue
right.
of the entire book, okay? Because everything in this, not everything, I should say it, there are a lot of things in this book that want you to care about trees. And a lot of your shenanigans are tied to trees. Like, some of your stuff is fully functional without trees, but your shenanigans are often quite tree dependent, quite woods dependent. Right,
yeah,
and shenanigans are what lets you compete in games.
Yeah, which is why Dreadwood, and we talked about Dreadwood on the review show that we did, that it was the standout, I would say, aspect of that book. Like the first thing on the list that stood out the most, because it doesn't require woods to be down for the mobility, and you could play that core aspect of older school style Sylvaneth equivalent of stringing out 30 Dryads across the board. Now I can, if I'm playing Fire Slayers, like Laurie mentioned in his show with Coach, you can go first, wrap 30 Dryads around a Fire Slayer army to give them a speed bump. They got to go through first while you're scoring on objectives. Anyway, you can't do that with woods if you're limited to woods. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what it's effectively done is make it so Dreadwood just becomes so much head and shoulders above everything else.
Yeah, I've found that Spell Portal, for my money, is essentially mandatory for non-Dreadwood. There have been far too many games where I am playing a good player who knows how to zone space, and I'm not going first. They're going first, getting on me, et cetera, and I don't have the reach to reliably get a wood in their deployment area to really pressure. Yeah, and that constantly is happening. Yep. So yeah, I think but then that means you're relying on magic, and if you're relying on magic, you could be playing Khorne or Slaves of Darkness with Autobinds, Chaos Ascendant, Seraphon, Lumineth soon, Nagat. There are so many armies in the game that can just shut down magic.
Sure,
particularly
Tzeentch.
Yeah. Tzeentch.
Seraphon. Yeah, if you didn't mention him, but yes, you might have. Yeah. I mean, when you're just facing like the super frog, that's gonna more or less insta kill your branch witches and branch wraiths. Like, they're just dead.
Right.
And he's also just like no.
Yep.
Also no. Just smacking that down. So it's just, it puts you on the back foot. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get into the specifics here. Let's talk about it like we're complaining. So I wanted to get the woods talk out of the way now, because I'll tell you right off the rip. If I was going to fix one thing, if you said, Vince, you can change one and only one thing about Sylvaneth, that's the change I would make.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah, you're right. I need to play some games actually testing this. Yeah, definitely now that we're talking through it a little bit more, I can see the point that it could be a lot better actually, particularly outside of Dreadwood, to make Winterleaf and all of these other... Yeah. And again, that's the thing I think the book did a reasonably good job of. We've got 5 really cool glades, in my opinion. 2 that you're probably not going to be touching unless maybe figure out something interesting to do with Ironbark, like teleporting 20 Iron Drakes with a Rune Lord or something with Bridge. You could do that, but or Hearthguard or whatnot. But yeah, that's a relative rarity. 5 glades that are really interesting, and so yeah. But with just overall with this book,
I want to now flip into the current state of play. So you've been playing a lot of Sylvaneth, Tyler. Yeah. Take us through where you think they currently are right now. And by the way, I don't want to talk about the woods anymore. From now on, the woods are the woods. They do what they do. Okay, so
yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's some nuances with the woods in terms of they really scaled back what they actually do. Like, that might be worth talking about, because they don't do actually a hell of a lot. You're spending time doing things that tend to have no impact on the game. Rouse by Magic is mostly useless. Whatever it's called, where you might get smacked by woods if you're within an inch of it at the end of the charge phase.
I think it's called oops, you hit your head on a tree branch.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally only come up once where it's made a difference in a game. It made a huge difference in that particular game, but that was the only game.
There are rules that should just be eliminated. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so I make that a 5+, or anyway, there's little micro details like that they could change. But in terms of state of play where it stands right now, I've been trying out everything but Dreadwood because I knew last year that Dreadwood was probably the way to go, and then Laurie proved it with doing really well at tournaments. Laurie has had like 3 or 4 top 5, top 8, top 10 finishes. He came in 3rd at AOSGT. There's a really good show he did with AOS Coach, I think I might mention earlier, where he goes through a little bit of that. And he ran Dreadwood. And essentially, what I thought, the book last year when it came out, it appeared to skew mobility and melee. And that, for the most part, is what I've been saying in the testing on TTS. I didn't play the book. I switched over to Stormcast, didn't play the book a whole lot. Ranged outside of like 21 or 24 Kurnoth bows and Heartwood, I don't see enough reliable, meaningful range damage options through a combined arms list in Sylvaneth that I can sufficiently rely on to compete against a reasonable amount of the spread when the spread is quite significant nowadays and what you're confronted with.
What
on top of the normal problems that always encounter range, like your own woods will block you. There are other things that on the board that will block you. You have things like despoilers floating around that will just pitch black things. Like there are you have realm rules still that can turn off line of sight. Like there are just, again, inbuilt meta challenges to the range strat always.
What's the exact wording on Ironbark?
Define what you mean.
On including the dwarf units.
The exact word. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Tyler. I'll read it if you don't want to. I have the book up.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, where is it actually at?
Well, I thought it was essentially that you can ally up to 400 points of not KO. It's just limited to dispossessed, I believe.
I think that's right.
Dispossessed and fire slayers. Yeah.
Yeah, dispossessed only if general is Ironbark. Fire slayers only if general is Ironbark. Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Yeah.
Dispossessed and fire slayers. Sorry, took me a minute to scroll to the right place.
Yeah, so like thinking about what's in that category of reliable range damage, 21, 24 Kurnoth Hunter. That's not in Heartwood. That's not to me a design answer. You know, You're saying we're going to make Kurnoth bows viable by having an artifact that makes them interesting, but only at scale. I've been trying, like Liam, he was on the show last year with Coach. He talked about his list, Darthu, 9 bows, 6 size, some bodies, not many bodies. That's an interesting list. I don't think it's that great, to be honest. I've tried out lists like that. It's got a number of problems. Again, you're working hard. This book is generally, you're working hard to go 3-2, and you might go 4-1. But you're working pretty damn hard, I think, nowadays to go 3-2. So with maybe the exception of Dreadwood. Again, good players, good Dreadwood list, good matchups. You can push 4-1 with greater confidence, with greater probability. 5-0 is still incredibly difficult, I think, extremely difficult. Okay, so yeah, there's just, I think Iron Drakes are interesting. Sisters of the Watch, maybe. I haven't tried them out. The math is certainly a lot better. Again, you probably got to do bridge or strategy where you're consistently giving reasons for your opponent to come into you as a threat that's being screened off. But yeah, most of the range damage, it just has inherent challenges right now.
Yeah, like an ideal ally for them would have been 12 like engine riggers with all guns.
Yeah.
Because they're flying, so they could ignore woods.
Right.
Yeah, and then they would have the range and the reach and the threat to actually put some pressure, but unfortunately they aren't included. So.
Yeah. So I mean, Sylvaneth started out, at least my take on why I love that book was because they reminded me so much of High Elves, and I think a lot of people they reminded of High Elves. High Elves from a combined arms standpoint. That book, when it came out, did a little bit of magic, mobility, combat, durability. They checked roughly the 5 boxes, but they didn't do anything too intensely. Right. They started to do something too intensely with the change to mass reg discount in 2017, and where generally that accelerated the Sylvaneth player base, awakening to, oh my God, you can spam Dryads and chain them out and throw in a Frostheart Phoenix to make them not only -1 to hit, but -1 to wound, etc. That became the go-to, and that was obnoxious and just yeah, it did really well, but that's not exactly a fun playstyle pattern about the bunkering, etc. With all that. But yeah, so the army, that the book, it's not a combined arms army anymore.
Right.
As best as I can tell, it's very skew. With really good play, you can skew toward, I think, mobility, limiting your engagements, being careful about where you're doing damage output. But that often falls apart because of the House of Cards nature of so many aspects of the book, particularly the main way that it's been most competitive, which is the Dreadwood, Spirit Song Stave, extra cast on your Branch Wraith, Throne of Vines, +2 to cast, stacking, get up Spite Swarm Hive, then you're teleporting from your Bunker Wood, your launch pad with +3 to move and charge.
Yep.
And you're using Dreadwood, to get away from the need to have woods down. So yeah, that's been the most competitive, but that's a House of Cards. That right now, it's probably would face the most difficult challenge of actually, Lori wasn't facing Seraphon, or
Right.
I'm not sure where Zinch was when he was doing quite well, but I think the meta is quite a bit more challenging out there right now with that House of Cards Dreadwood build that we've been seeing.
Sure, because if you've got, which is very likely, you'll face auto dispels, table wide dispels,
Yeah.
massive bonuses to dispels, single casters who will have as many casts as your whole army.
Right.
Like that's all highly likely now. And that so much of what you just mentioned is based on being able to get off a few key spells.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
Getting off the little endless spell that makes everybody the Spite Swarm Hive or whatever, right? That makes everybody +3 to move and +3 to charge.
Yeah.
Like it's so essential to this strat because you want to basically just pop out the guys you want, put them where you want, and then basically auto nail the charge. Especially if it's like a group of Kurnoth who can always be in range of the appropriate rerolls or whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the playstyle is that which I don't mind. I mean, we had that playstyle from the very beginning. We had our launch pad, our bunker. You would put shit around it. Sorry. Anyway, that was traditional, and they bumped that up with Spite Swarm Hive.
Yep.
So, and it looks cool. I mean, it's bunker and spring forward. It's kind of thematic. Maybe it gets a little bit repetitive. It'd be nice to have some other options. But yeah, so the playstyle is you essentially have waves, and I would say as long as you've got some hammers and you're going to with this mobility melee focus, like 9 sides or 6 sides, 6 swords, 20 spites, double outcast. You can do Dreadwood, you can do a number of different options. I mean, you see some similar patterns, like Lori's list, for example, 30 Dryads, 10 spites, 5 spites, 5 spites, 9 sides, 6 swords, Spite Swarm, 2 Branch Wraith, Arch Revenant. So that gives you 3 big units, but also gives you 10 spites, which is a meaningful threat, particularly if you got +1 attack. Yeah, so that they can go through a pretty sizable screen, for example. That's the thing that the army needs to be able to kill a screen to get into the juicy bits. It gives you 9 sides. But generally it's a pressure play style, which is what we used to be. And you get that pressure because often your opponents don't want to take first against you, even if they outdrop you. They don't want to face a double turn from 9 sides with reliable charges.
Right.
So I've been finding that most people, they'll give me first, and you often still need to pressure, influence tempo, get on the objectives early, pull your opponent apart. Even if those 9 sides die at the bottom of 1, if you can kill a key piece or get enough return, maybe not an equivalent enough of value exchange. Yeah, I think you're playing the value exchange, pressuring your opponent, and you've got waves. You need to have multiple threads of waves: 20 spites, 9 sides, 6 swords. Enough that gives you the capacity to have, to try to win the value exchange game and to have enough bodies to score objectives.
Right.
Anyway, that's generally what I've been finding. Winterleaf, everything else falls apart because of magic. The inability to get woods out with sufficient reliability. Spell Portal is an absolute must in non-Dreadwood. I think Tree Revenants are an absolute must. Tree Revenants are still great in general, even with Dreadwood. And a Tree Lord Ancient, I think, is mandatory in non-Dreadwood, just because of the auto wood.
Yeah, which is madness because he's underwhelming. But okay, no, I agree with all that. Tom, any other thoughts you want to add on that?
No, I think all that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's our current positives? Let's take into account what this army has going in its favor, which I argue is actually, again, as we mentioned this right before the show. If I were to just sort of show you the kinds of things this army has at its disposal, and then told you that it performed so underwhelmingly, I just feel like people would be like, I don't get it. Why? Right? Because it feels like it has so many good tools, and that by that I mean you look at what Kurnoth are capable of, you're like, okay, this is unit that's got a 4-up, decent number of wounds, that can re-roll, right? Not the worst ratio at 15 wounds for 200 points. Like, it's not the best, but it's not the worst for what it gets. They can be on a 4-up re-rollable. They've got a, neg 2 rend weapon is one of their options. Neg 2 rend is obviously highly valuable and powerful, right? So you look at that. You look at the aforementioned tree revs, which I still think are one of the best units in the whole game. You look at spite revs and their ability to just but they are very glass cannony, but my gosh, do they have a ton of attacks?
They're awesome.
Yeah.
They really do dish out damage. And Tom, you were early on Spite Revenants when you saw the book. You were talking about them. Yeah, they can be amazing.
They're good for mass dice.
Yes.
Yeah, when you need weight of dice. Yeah, they do it.
Yeah, when you need weight of dice. Like, they're not going to punch through things that need rend. In an armor environment, they're not going to perform as well. Right. But the reality is that they're cheap. So 2 blocks is 400 points.
Exactly. Yeah. And double outcast might be the most intriguing 2 battalion lower drop option that we have right now. That is another challenge, is that because some of the battalions, free spirits, forest full dreads, free spirits with Durthu and the Kurnoth, 40 points overcosted, I would say, at least. So you're paying too much to get to the 3 to 5 drop range. Double outcast can get you to, I think, a 6 drop, somewhere around a 6 drop, 7 drop. But yeah, positives. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, as we know, there are inherent challenges with stats that I think we often collectively reference in our minds to some degree or another, consciously or unconsciously. Sylvaneth right now, I just looked before the outbreak, was at a 41% win rate. Okay, that's not. There's a lot of problems with that, I think. One, this has always been a relatively difficult army to play. Higher thresholds, all else equal. This is an army. It's got a lot of options. It has not been necessarily obvious to most players that Dreadwood was the way to go. So most of those players are probably not playing Dreadwood that have been going to tournaments within that data set. If you look at the range of potential matchups, most of them, they at least, in my opinion, they at least have a shot at competing against. A lot of them are going to be tough matchups. Like, there's a big category of melee armies. Khorne, Slanesh, War Clans, Flesh-Eater Court, Slaves of Darkness, Nurgle. Sure. Those all might be, they might be all tough matchups, but they're winnable games. They're games, influenced by generalship, etc. There's Seraphon, Tzeentch, Chaos Ascendant with a stupid 9+ or 10+ on 3 dice summoning of Pink Horrors, Kairos with almost board-wide threat range, or Lord of Change, or Kairos in particular, of nuking, throwing 6 mortal wounds at you and nuking, because he flies, he ignores line of sight with the woods, nuking your Branch Wraith. So there's some kind of patterns like that. OBR, Fire Slayers. Even OBR and Fire Slayers, you might be able to compete a little bit more than you can against some like Seraphon and Tzeentch because of, again, the mobility of Dreadwood. Have enough bodies, play well. Maybe it's hard, but IDK. So it's the ones that are at the top that probably are systematically a little too good with some of their builds that are the most problematic. And that shouldn't be that surprising. KO is, I'd say, the exception because they ignore line of sight. So you could just get...
Because everything is going to fly and everything is going to shoot you right in the woods.
Yeah, but you need to zone. You need to have 20 spikes or 30 dreads. Zoning. Some matchups, particularly with the too many battle plans having we've only got 18 inches between us. It can be difficult to zone out 24 inches, the 24-inch kill box of KO. So I have found that challenging. But yeah, if you can zone out the 24-inch kill box, and certainly the 18-inch kill box, that does give you a little bit more capacity to compete against KO. And anyway, the point being that there are difficult matchups. Seraphon is an absolute joke, as far as I can tell, with Sylvaneth. I think Seraphon is definitively the most powerful army in the game right now. When I look at Seraphon versus Tzeentch, I even see a gap between those two. I would much rather play against Tzeentch than Seraphon.
I would tend to agree with that, especially the again, taking sort of the worst version of both of these things, right? Yeah. Because as Tom will tell you, you can I played some Seraphon armies. I played
Coalesce multiple times this week, and it wasn't terrible.
Right. Yeah, I played my Seraphon army against Tom a couple times this weekend. I used a coalesced army the first time, and I had a regular Slann, not Croak. Yeah. I only had 3 Sallies. Largely what I was doing was, my Steggy chief, That fun little combo and some Thunder Lizard stuff. And then I did it in the one that then I did one without a Slann completely. It was the all like Saurus type army, like super heavy Saurus, and that did not work at all. That
I mean,
poorly.
That was a great experience.
Sure. Where you sat back and shot me while the ogre player climbed inside of me. Yes, and used me like a puppet. Yeah, it was great. As I found myself in the middle of that particular operation, that was not great. So again, taking the worst version of all these armies. Yes, I agree. If Sylvaneth is scissors, then they are the rock that is going to just smash you because they beat your magic hands down. They shut that's over. They kill your tiny heroes. You actually need to do stuff. Those are dead, right?
Kurnoth, even against Coalesce, Kurnoth swords are usually. The math on Kurnoth swords is the best, even against 2+ save. Looking at it now, of course, again, the game isn't played in math. The reality is, you often will want that 2-inch reach on the sides, as we've had this debate for going on almost 5 years now, or at least 4 years now. But yet, Coalesce just cuts that damage from the swords in half.
Sure.
So, I've been trying to kill 40 skanks, and it's taken me 3 rounds with 6 swords.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. I experienced it on KO.
Yeah.
Like those guns the big guns getting cut in half. That's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's fun. That's my favorite thing about Coalesce. I also like that but that's also the more fair version that doesn't teleport and doesn't summon and all that kind of stuff.
Well, exactly. You're not running 18 Sallies.
Or nor Croak, yes.
Nor Croak, yeah.
Right. At any rate,
there's a bunch of positives. Spites, branch rates, Arch Revenant, Melee Kurnoth, Places of Power is amazing. 30 Dryads, bunking them up woods. You don't have to use a command point to save them from Battle Shock. The Spitesworm Hive is really good. Vengeful Skull Root might be underrated. Glade Worm is not that interesting, in my opinion. Darthu has been lowered to 300 points now. He started out, I think, at 400 back in 2016.
Something like that. Yeah.
There are at least a few really interesting artifacts. Spiritsong Stave is the go-to for most folks. Vespral Gem is interesting. Auto-cast a spell like Verdur's Harmony, get a Kurnoth back, D3 model, Spites, Tree Revs, or Dryads. Or you've got a nice combo you can do with Vespral Gem, Regrowth, and Null Root with something that allows when you cast a spell as the command trait, so like on a Truelit Ancient, if you cast a spell successfully, you automatically get D3 heal wounds. So D3 heal from that, D6 heal wounds from Regrowth through the automatic Vespral Gem casting it. So you can do little combos like that are interesting. Crown of the Fell Bowers, picking enemy unit within 6 inches, reroll all wounds against it. So that can be nice with a Spitesworm Hive combo, teleporting a Truelit Ancient. You get the free teleport from him. Put a wood down, bunker wood, put out a wood wholly within 18 of the True Lord's free from his free one. He gets a free teleport from that wood to the other. Use your Dreadwood CA command ability to teleport, 20 spites, 6 sides, whatever, to go along with him. Make those charges. Hopefully you can roll a 6-up with rerolls and get in there and pick a unit. Now you're rerolling wounds. Spites, you're rerolling ones to hit in Dreadwood. That dishes out a ton of damage.
Right.
And so there's a few. Acorn is still interesting in certain lists, but Warsinger is solid. I think it's an option that the player base probably hasn't looked at enough. Warsinger is maybe the only really interesting, viable command trait, but it gives you +2 to move and charge. So you can stack that with Cogs, turn that into a +4. You could stack that with Spitesworm Hive, a +7. Warsinger opens up deep striking, more reliable deep striking, and you're not at the whims of Spitesworm Hive, where you have to cast it, and you have to not roll a 1 to trigger it, and you have to be on the board. So you can actually do deep striking, play Stormcast, have stuff on the board, like a little Gab Bomb, but with one less bonus on the charge. So
where do we think Draika stands right now?
Draika, in my opinion, is too expensive. I really think the War Scroll is one of the more intriguing War Scroll updates. Yeah, I like the design of it. She's too expensive relative to her fragility and randomness. She also, of course, is being hurt by the fact that our own goddamn woods block our line of sight.
Right.
If her ability, maybe that's too strong, would have to be really tested. Colony of Flitter Furies, thematically, narratively, she just sends these things out and they just swarm and attack whatever. Yeah, if she could just hang out in the woods, screen 18-inch threats, and that would actually make her interesting at 320. But because
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she is the example of something that has a really good war scroll. Like her
mm,
fundamentals are solid. She's only
yeah,
10 wounds,
Yep.
but uh her uh base 3 up save, she's relatively fast on foot and 9-inch move. She is
yeah,
a caster. Her range damage can be actually really, good,
yeah,
frankly,
yeah,
for how many attacks she can put out. I mean, she can put out a unit's worth of attacks herself effectively, right?
yeah,
And she can also buff, works well and interesting with Spideys, obviously, who I also think
right,
are a good unit.
yeah,
Yep.
I really think she is just a points issue. There are a lot of things in this book that I think actually need the War Scroll rewritten. See Tree Lord discussion. We'll get to that stuff in a minute.
yeah,
Yep.
But I don't think Draca needs, like, she got the War Scroll she needs.
yeah.
Okay?
I can see
She
that.
just needs the points that fit that War Scroll.
Do you think she should stay a monster with a damage reduction table, with a damage table?
You're saying, could she flip over to be on
Be
like the
be an
kitty cat
eidolon,
table or
Yeah.
yeah.
or just be an eidolon and not have a monster, not be a
Yeah,
monster.
the Eidolon and the Cat Llama, these like 10 wound pseudo
Yeah,
monsters that don't really have a damage table.
right.
Yes, I think if you told me that was how you were going to redesign her, it'd be fine.
Yeah. No, I
That's
agree
my
with that.
answer.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
I'm on board with that.
I don't know that it's hugely impactful to
Yeah,
what your general strat with her is, but I mean, it does matter.
yeah,
Her actual, she goes worthless in melee pretty fast
yes,
if she takes wounds,
yeah,
because those claws need to be doing a lot of work at
yeah,
-2 Ren 2 damage, and when she's only making 3 of those attacks versus 6 of those attacks, it's
right.
a heck of a lot of difference in her output, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, to me, she feels more like a ranged mobile utility piece, like uh,
sure.
just kind of marching around the outside, launching bee missiles at people.
Yeah, yeah, and like absolutely, she has a role or a number of roles, but a very clear role, which is sniping 5-6 wound heroes.
Yep.
A role that is largely unfulfilled, reliably, efficiently, or reasonably efficiently in the book right now. So yeah, drop her points, maybe remove that monster keyword, good to go.
Okay. So let's talk about some actual how we improve this bad boy. Okay, because I
Mhm.
agree with you. And again, we all stated at the beginning that the simple answer to this question is fix the woods. But we're not going to do that. We're going to fix it in the other ways. So let's say we want it woods or not. What are the other ways we fix this? Tom, what's your first thought? What's your next thing you want to see changed in this book? I got a hot one that I want to launch off, but I'll let Tom go first.
A real anvil unit.
A real anvil unit. You're saying beyond
Dryads.
30 dryads in a woods, neg 1 to hit on a 4-up save, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Not enough, yeah, sure.
Yeah, because you can't anvil an objective with that. Like, that's a great anvil in a woods that I don't care about because it can't be on objectives. Like, and so, it's
Well, I
neat
would just
defensive,
yeah.
right?
Say that again.
Like, it's neat that they're defensive, but I just don't have
Mhm.
to touch them because they can't be on the objective.
Well, yeah, they can. I mean, the issue in part is potentially with the pre-deploy Wildwood, which is the one. Let's say we're playing classic AOS Border War. We're playing Border War. I want to be able to bunker 30 dryads on my objective.
Okay.
I want to be able to put my pre-deploy Wildwood at most 3 inches away from the objective, but not 6 inches away from the objective.
Sure.
Right now, the book says 6 inches away from the objective for the pre-deploy Wildwood. So yeah, that's a problem. There's been a lot of inconsistency in the community because, anyway, there's confusion right now that they need to clear this up. Some people are saying just go with the faction terrain errata and ignore the book.
Even if it's 3 inches.
Yeah.
Even if it's 3 inches, you're not getting 30 on the objective.
Okay, fair, yeah,
Like,
fair enough.
because of the like the actual base of the woods is what, an inch? Like at the thinnest point, maybe it's a half an inch.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
And so you're going to get 2.5 inches of model bases
Mm-hmm.
in a curve. And so the woods is going to touch it at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll touch at one point, and then the sphere will go like that. And so you're going to get 2.5 inches. So you're going to get what, 8 models, maybe?
Yeah, it's more. It's definitely more than that. I'd have to look at it, but it's more than that. I've done this many times. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
my point being that you can just get crowded out without them ever having to enter your woods.
Yeah, your later woods can pop up on the objectives, right? They only have
Yes,
to eat other terrain and enemy models.
Yeah, 1 inch away from everything, and of course you measure to the center point. So you're right. You're literally right by the objective. You're not encompassing it like you used to,
Right.
which
Yeah.
was obnoxious.
Right.
But yeah, you are right next to it.
Yes, you are 1 inch from the objective. Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's fine. That's fair. A real anvil unit. I don't know. It's I'm of two minds on that.
Sure.
Like let me give my answer to that. You ready? Tell me what you feel about this.
Okay.
Let's change Kurnoth for a moment. Okay?
Okay.
Here's Kurnoth's new profile. They work exactly like they do now.
Yep.
Maybe they cost exactly what they do now. I'll think about that in a minute. Okay? They have no rerollable save that they have to plant their feet. Okay? They just kind of do that. We can still keep the name of the ability.
Yep.
All right? Or whatever. Doesn't matter. In combat, in melee combat, okay? First of all, on their scroll, they have a 3-up save. Sure, let's put them at just 3-up, okay? And they have a 6-up damage shrug.
So they have a 3-up rerollable.
No, I said get rid of the rerollable. We're going to give them 3-up all the time, and we're going to give them a shrug. We're going to give them a feel no pain.
Okay.
I'll start at 6-up. I could be pushed to 5-up. Something like
3-up, 6-up. Okay.
Yep.
I would be okay with that, I think.
Tyler, what do you think about that?
3+ and a 6, but no reroll in combat.
No reroll in combat.
No reroll in combat. Yeah, like but they have a 6-up against everything. Wounds
But,
and mortals.
Tyler, don't forget you can spend a command point and get a 3-up reroll once.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean that. Yeah,
or Mystic Shield.
Or Mystic Shield or whatever. That stuff's all out there.
So you're trading a 4-up always rerollable for a 3-up that is a conditional reroll once.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. So I know that's cliche to constantly use that word, but yeah, I have to think more about it. It certainly helps with the shooting issue, where they're crap against shooting because they're just a 4-up, maybe reroll once. So that's nice. They could be a 2-up and cover, reroll once. That's great. That was another thing that was taken away from Sylvaneth that a number of people didn't like, but relative to the state of the game when it was taken away was not that big of an issue. That is Oaken Armor with the extra +1 save.
Yep.
That was not an issue in the game at all. So that's gone. Yes, but yeah, and then the change to Mystic Shield, of course, which was probably a good change. Yeah, that might work.
Pushing down their save into the, let's call it heavy anvil part, right? Which people with a 3-up are generally our heavy anvil save right now, right? Then you do have to do something to get them into rerolling ones, but you've got options. And then giving them some kind of light mortal wound protection / other, secondary save that just works against everything and shaves off another 16% of the damage seems to me like it would actually be quite effective at keeping them around. Because the problem with the rerollable save is if they ever get touched by something that's neg 1 or neg 2 Ren, neg 2 especially, they just evaporate.
Yeah.
Because you can be on 6-up rerolls all day that you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and you're not, and again, especially with Dreadwood as the apparent main answer that we're looking at right now, and the way that woods work, you're not that often, in my experience, but able to just, here's my bunker of 6 sides with 10 or 20 or 30 Dryads surrounding them. You've got to come at me because you're not plopping, as you just said, Tom, you're not plopping and encompassing an objective now where they have to come into 6 sides. So there's so many games where, people just are able to ignore the sides too much. And, I can't play conservatively. I've got to do something with them. But yeah, that's really interesting, Vince.
Okay. Here's what you ready for my next change?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to fix the thing that needs to be fixed in this army the second most. Okay? There is a problem in this army. There is a problem. and it drives me crazy. All right? Do you know what that problem is, Tyler?
Valerial is considered a goddess.
Your god is weak. That's right. Your god is weak.
Yep, that was on my list. Yep.
I make fun of Alariel all the time, and
I mean, there's no defending her anymore right now.
correct.
There's just not.
She is a joke. She
Yes.
is a joke.
Yes.
She is 16 wounds. 16 wounds.
Yeah.
That is not a lot.
No.
Okay. Let's just all lay that out there.
Dread Soren is laughing right now.
Sure, absolutely. She has 16 wounds for 660 points.
600 points, but details.
Yeah, sorry, 600 points. That's right. She did go down. Sorry, 600 points.
Yeah.
And still way overcosted. And she has base 3-up save. Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
She can fly, which I appreciate. She is quite fast. That's the
She's
one
fast.
thing that's good about her. She
Yeah.
has a 16-inch fly move on a pie plate base. That is very
Yeah.
hard to fit places, but at least she flies. So
Yeah.
thank goodness for that. Okay. Yes, she can summon, on average a 200-point unit. Great. That's not a terrible thing. So let's call her 400 points. Let's just assume that the other units she summons are good. Okay?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Let's call her 400 points. I would point out that Tzeentch gets a Gaunt Summoner that summons, a 200-point unit, and he costs 60 points. Just if we're doing that same math.
Sure.
That also summons 50 wounds to the table, and there ain't nothing on her list that's 50 wounds.
Uh-huh.
Or a spellcaster, for that matter, other than the Branch Witch and whatever. That's not exactly in the same caliber of situation here.
Right.
So let's call her 400 points. She's a wizard and she can cast 3 spells at no bonus. At no bonus. None. 0
Right.
bonus.
Yep.
Okay. And she has some...
You can throw Throne of
Yeah. Throne of Vines.
there.
Throw that on
Fine, done. You,
Sure.
Good luck getting the initial thrown off. That's the problem.
Yeah, that was another outstanding, maybe unintentional thing about the book is that you can stack Throne of Vines
yeah,
as long as you don't move or
Dan
teleport.
had +4/+6 in the woods this weekend, right?
Yeah, because none of us were in dispel range of it. Neither of us had dispellers, and by the way, it didn't matter. He lost that game. He was up to +6 to cast, and it didn't matter. We just murdered him.
Yeah.
It's fine.
At any rate, I remember my Khorne Demon Prince, I think, chopping him right off that throne. So whatever, it doesn't matter.
But that is legitimately one of arguably the best uses for Alariel right now. Spell Portal, Throne of Vines, have her ass in one spot for a couple rounds, which you tend to want to play conservatively with her anyway. You tend to be how you'd want to play her because she dies so
she's
easily.
way too fragile.
She's way too fragile. So you've got your, let's call it a 400-point model. Yeah, hanging out in the back as maybe a late game pressure. And in the meantime, Throne of Vines, Spell Portal, Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis, casting value, that's the number of dice you check out of units. Each 4-up is a mortal wound. Spell Portal gives you a lot more range. You can actually snipe heroes, put some wounds. You have a longer threat range.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's maybe one of the most legitimate uses of her right now.
Her command ability is also underwhelming.
It used to be amazing.
Right. And now it's reroll wound rolls of 1 within 14 inches of her.
Yeah, in an army that is probably struggling for command points more than almost anybody else.
They're very light on CPs.
Way up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So gods should have good command abilities. Let me just start there. That seems like a gimme. Okay. Yeah, my feeling is when we get these 600 point to 800 point models, right? They need to be better in some way. They have to be a cut above. I don't mind, like, Archeon is a great example of what these things should feel like and look like and act like.
Yeah, he's so good now, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, Archeon is very strong. And by the way, Archeon has layers of protection against stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Not only does he have an incredible save, he also has a spell eater, he also has a mortal wound protection, right? Like when you throw magic at him, he will just tend to laugh it off. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nagash is actually a really good example, especially when put into the power of OBR
Yeah.
and the various things and the sort of Petrifex Elite type of stuff.
You're essentially relegated to just trying your best to minimize what he does and ignoring him.
Right, because he just becomes a monster, an absolute monster on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
So, these, even Catacross, by the way, I think falls into this category at 500 points. His utility is so high. The number of things he does, the way he influences the battlefield is so impactful, right? Like, he is a relevant factor, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where Doc are, but I mean, certainly Marathi had been in that category for quite some time, and she might still be in that category. Yeah, she just has such good. What's up?
She's worth her points.
Yeah, she's 480 or whatever. That sounds right off the top of my head.
Yep, she's punchy. She's a great anvil. Like, she does work.
Yeah. And so when I look at Alariel, it's funny because you mentioned, like, oh, the strat you would have to play with eliminates literally the only thing I said was good about her mobility, because you got to pin her to the ground on Throne, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't mentioned that you can now move her, and at the end of the movement phase is when you summon. It's no longer in the hero phase. So yeah, you could potentially 16 with a run, and then summon wholly within 9 of her.
Yep.
So if she can survive long enough, you hold on to that, ace up your sleeve, you might be able to pull off something interesting. You can do some chaining, some interesting setups, but yeah, generally, yeah, she's hanging out in the same spot.
Okay, so Alariel, the god again of the god of a whole species, right?
Who, by the way, should know her entire spell lore, which she does not.
Correct. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
that would be nice too.
She only knows 1. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Well, I guess 2 technically, because they all get a bonus 1 for free. So she's got 1 plus 1 for free. Yes. Yeah. She gets the bonus nacho like everybody else, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we fix her? Well, I think my first answer is that she always is +1 to cast Dispel and Unbind, and it goes to +2 if she's within an inch of a wood.
Okay.
That's my first answer. She's supposed to be a really powerful spellcaster.
Absolutely.
That's actually part of her story. So let's have her be that way. Yes, +2 doesn't solve all the problems, but it means so if you get that number, at least you only have to be near a wood. And even if you're not, you still have something. It lets you get rid of the need to pin yourself on Throne.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Second, I thought this was her war form.
Yeah.
Zing!
Right? I mean, I'm not mistaken there, right? Like, that's how the book opens up.
Yeah.
With the story of how Alariel can no longer allow her people to retreat. She has taken on her war form, and it's time for her to take her children to battle.
You don't enjoy 5 attacks, 4s and 3s? That's not doing it for you?
It's not doing it for me. It's really not. Nor is her silly Talon of the Dwindling attacks that do nothing. Okay?
There's a category of things like that. Massive Paley Talon, Talon of the Dwindling, the Wildwood, end of charge phase. Yeah, these things that are on 6-ups, and like, yeah, it's like, what? I don't know. It just seems useless.
Yep.
Kind of odd rules writing. I mean, just make it a little more interesting, reliable, like a little more potential to actually do something.
Yeah. So one, we're gonna take that spear that she's got, that giant spear of Orion that she stole, and we're gonna give it an actual melee profile. Okay. That thing does not look like a missile-only weapon. It feels like you could also stab somebody with it in melee. So we're going to give her, if she's in the war aspect and a god, then she can actually swing some she can punch, okay? So we're going to give her a good number of attacks with that thing. Probably something like 6 attacks on 3s and 2s at -1 for 3 damage each, or something like that. Figure out what you like, but it's going to be in that range, okay? We're going to take the beetle and we're going to put him on 3s and 3s.
Yes, I have that as well. Yeah, 2s against 5 or more models. That would be 2s and 3s. It's still only 5 attacks.
Yep.
2s and 3s, yeah.
That's a slam dunk, okay? We're also going to lower the wounds chart on the Great Antlers by 1. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, it goes 5, 5, 4, 3, 2 instead of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is a class, like, what happened with that that damage chart is human beings' classic desire for symmetry.
Symmetry, yeah.
Somebody made that, and they didn't think about it. They just said, "Oh, there's 5 slots. There's 5 numbers. I'll have it go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look how nice and pretty and symmetrical that looks." Wrong answer. Because then she gets 5 wounds on her, and boom, already that thing is starting to fall into the crapper, right? Yeah. So that's next. It goes 5/5. Then she's holding her actual max melee potential up higher, right? So now we've turned her into an actual melee threat. There's the next step, right? Because we've given her a bunch of spear attacks. We've made the beetle better. It's actually threatening and will do damage. Next up is the most important thing. How do we keep this crazy lady alive? What do we do here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And there's the easy options, which is you give her like a 4-up ward save. Protection of the life bloom or something. Whatever. Boom. Her wounds just mystically heal as soon as they're like as soon as they happen, they're already stitching themselves back together. Hence representing the 4-up ward. She has like Wolverine levels of regeneration, right? Not half the healing that a vampire lord has by drinking from a cup. Okay?
That's not nice. Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, that is what the math said. I double-checked the math, and that is indeed an accurate mathematical comparison. The god of life should not be losing, not even close, to vampire with a sippy cup, okay?
Yeah, she had 2d3, but that was a little too strong, so we had to knock it down to d3.
Sure, yeah. 2d3 of hero phase healing, a thing that might happen 1 in 3 combat phases. How important? Yes, hero phase healing is almost always worthless. So, the easy answer is you slam dunk or a ward save. I think that's the boring option. There have been some people talking about it in the comments, and I think that's the super fun one, which is you give her an automatic 1-time full Seed of Rebirth. Okay?
Absolutely. That's my favorite as well. Yeah.
After she dies, she pops back up on the board at her full wound profile, but as a setup, right? So standard 9 inches away from enemies, yada, yada, yada.
Within a Sylvaneth Wildwood?
No, I don't think you'd even have to do it. I think you don't. Maybe, we could talk about it if that's what you wanted to have, but I think it'd just be, she's back alive. So, Or
you have to set up wholly within 9 inches of Sylvaneth Wildwood. That still gives you a lot of space.
Well, her base is 6 inches wide. 6.05 inches wide, something like that. So, that actually only gives you 3 inches around the woods. Slightly less than. But sure.
But that's not being in the wood.
It's fair. I mean, look, here's what I'll say. I'm open to the suggestion. How about that?
Sure.
So, the fact that you could kill her off an objective, then she's good at holding an objective to a point. You kill her off it, and then your hero's on it. She can't just pop back up on it, right? Because she has to reset up away from them. So, sure, you can do the woods or away from enemies, and you could have the thing that if she cannot be reset up, then she is removed. She's counts as slain, right? If there's absolutely nowhere she can go. But I like just comes back as the answer. That feels very her.
Yeah.
And also, by the by, it would make for interesting tactical play with her in the same way that Marathi's Iron Heart makes her unique and powerful, because Marathi can go, Marathi can go sit and just be like, well, this is my objective for the next 2 rounds, so you just deal with that. Right? Unless you brought an endless spell, is going to plow through me off turn. I own this place now.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes her a really good piece.
Right.
It would be a cool counterplay to lots of highly destructive monsters, where she could get in, do damage, know she's going to die, but then pop back up. You could do the old suicide charge and replace type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you need to get where you've sort of got a mutually assured destruction situation.
Pop back up with 2d6 wounds or
full wounds, full profile.
Full profile.
Full profile.
Interesting. Okay.
Again, she's a god.
Sure.
I want to point out that Nagash is running around for not that many more points, casting 8 spells on a 2-up reroll 1 save with a 4-up reflecting mortal wound spell.
Yeah.
Sorry, protection. Right?
And a 5-up drug if he's in OBR.
And
Yeah.
yes, with the potential of a 5-up shrug that also lets him teleport.
Yeah, and you may not want to even do anything to him because of the teleport.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also having a spell that just turns people instantly to dust. The instant slains monsters.
Right, right.
Now, he is more expensive, okay? But my point is, that's the space we're playing in, right? So, again, I would put her... So, Gordrak, not a god, but Gordrak is the sort of closest thing like that out of the Destruction Force. I mean, he would splatter her against the wall so fast and instantaneously. It's not even funny.
Right.
And there's nothing she's going to do to stop him on the way in, right? She better have every Sylvaneth in the army in between, and then she'll stop that, right?
She got Locust on a 5-up by a Exalted Deathbringer Chariot, double activating, and she had 2 wounds left.
Sure. Yeah, that checks out. Like, that, absolutely. That, 200-point Slanesh hero is going to take your 600-point God of Life to the house, right?
Yep.
So my point is I think that would be a really cool space. Now, maybe with everything I've said, maybe she does need to if we're going to pop her up at full wounds, maybe she goes back to 650 or 660 or something like that. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I'm open to that kind of stuff. I'm trying to build her into a war scroll that's befitting her. Right. And then we can figure out the points later, because that will just happen. Right? We can back into that math. But the first question should be, what actually needs to happen on this scroll to make her worth playing?
Yeah, I like all of that. I mean, I think another, like we're talking about Nagash, he's obviously got the amazing command ability. So one thing I was thinking about is with the army, there's not a lot going on around the Spirit Song. And the Spirit Song is, of course, a really central narrative element of the Sylvaneth lore. So, as wargroves gather, they have this rising song that gets louder, and they get more connected and stronger, et cetera, et cetera. It has all these impacts, from the Spirit Song. And sort of, it's kind of like there's an ebb and flow to it. The more that they are distant from it, the worse off they feel, the less whatever, it has impacts. And then, so you can imagine there are a number of different ways you can do this. When I was thinking of her old command ability, Gairan's Wrath, to me, it was kind of like a spirit, the Spirit Song being expressed, because it was once per game, and it was your entire army would get it was reroll wounds or +1 of wounds, one of the two. It was amazing, because it could last into your next hero phase. You could have multiple turns in which you can do it. Great, really great ability. So maybe a way to maybe introduce a really meaningful Spirit Song mechanic into the army might be really interesting. Different ways you could do it. You've got like the direction of what's it called, the Tides of Death by the Ideneth, whatever that's called, the Tides. It could be a mechanic like that, or it could be a really powerful Big Wah command ability equivalent on Alariel. Where the Spirit Song is mainly mechanic oriented around her, incentivizing the player. Mechanic where you're incentivized to have a lot of your units by each other, because they're building the power of that Spirit Song. And then maybe some, you don't get the benefits when they're a certain range away. Like if you've got true revs on the other side of the board, they're not necessarily getting the Spirit Song. But anyway, all kinds of different directions. I thought that would be interesting as a mechanic.
No, I mean, I would be happy if it was just literally the whole army rerolls to wound. Like, that's like, make it her old ability, but stop it from being, which was the whole army rerolls to wound. Just make it not once a battle like it used to be, which was also stupid. Again, Nagash gets to give his whole army reroll ones to hit and save every single round. Just does that anywhere they're on the board. Okay, so job's a good one. These things are out there. It's not like and again, Coach asked what's her role, and my answer is these kinds of mega creatures can't have a role. They need to have multiple roles, because they're too much of your army to have a singular focus. Nagash in Petragash has multiple roles. He's a bully, right?
Yep.
He's your magic dominance, right?
Yep.
He will take objectives where that's relevant for him to do in those appropriate things, right? He can play multitask. By the way, same with Archeon,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
He's your central buff. He's your buff piece linchpin. Your buff linchpin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And by the way, same with even somebody like Marathi, who's on the smaller end of her, right? Marathi still fills multiple roles in your army. She can go in and hit hard when you need her to, and she can also anvil when you need her to.
And she can also spellcast from across the board when you need her to.
Yeah,
Right.
correct. If you keep her baby Marathi at first, you can do that and then pop out round 2, which I've done in games where I knew she was under no threat. Right? If I know there's no chance of her taking a wound because I'm fighting somebody who just has no ability to deal wounds at that kind of range when something's bunkered, I'll keep her as baby Marathi round 1 and just like pop off some spells and go to town, and then turn her into big Marathi in round 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And send her in. So like there's all of what I'm aiming for with Ilariel is giving her the same capability, because now she'd be mobile and she'd be dangerous. She'd become a bully.
Yep.
Right. She'd be decent at spellcasting, but she can certainly still meet her match. But at least she's playing the game, right?
Yeah, and especially with the way the army is designed right now, where magic dominance might be the most challenging thing that you can face as a Sylvaneth player.
Yeah, sure.
Where
Which we
they can
still
do-
don't know how all that's going to work out. Like I'm highly suspect of what when tournaments happen again, whenever that occurs.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what the magic world looks like.
Sure.
Right? Where because I really want to know if all these magic dominant people are going to Mr. Burns themselves, or are going to just be the kings because they can just dominate the entire phase. And I don't know what the answer is yet. Anyway, it at least would let her play, and it would give her a neat utility trick in her ability to sort of, go out there, be engaged. You can be dangerous with her, and then she comes back one time. By the way, just to be clear, everybody, I'm saying she comes back one time. I'm not saying every time. I hope that was clear to everyone. I'm not saying she infinite respawns. She has one full setup back to original, which should give her the depth she needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that all sounds pretty good. Where she stands right now, what do you think she should be point-wise?
Oh God, like 200 points cheaper if she's going to stay like this. I mean, she's vastly overcosted.
Yeah, like 450 at the top. Like I know that's crazy.
Even taking into account 200 points of Kurnoth that she's summoning.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yes, because that's not how you calculate points. If you have any question about that, see Gaunt Summoner. Gaunt Summoners aren't costed at 80 points.
Yeah,
60 points. Yeah.
60 points, right.
Yeah.
Because they're summoning 200 points of
pinks and or every other summoning in the game that doesn't factor into points. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I mean, because take that away, what is she doing? Let's get rid of the summoning. What is she doing right now to justify those points?
Oh, what is she doing right now, or what is she supposed to be doing on the table?
No, like right now, as it exists.
Right now she's giving you,
What is making up her point value?
her beetle. Like, she's a bully.
Yeah.
Like that's what she should be doing on the table, is bullying.
Sure, she's a bad bully right now.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. You don't spend 680 points on a bully.
Right.
Yeah, she's a late game, round 3, round 4, round 5. After hopefully you remove some of the pieces that can take her off the board, and she's managed to survive in that process. She's a late game push.
Sure.
Oh, you think she's an early game? What
I'm saying is that
that's not good enough.
They have lost the game already at that point.
Right.
Well, absolutely. That's
if right.
Totally. Yeah.
Not worth 680 points.
I agree with IT. What she's doing for her 450 points right now is dying.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, traditionally, you would have, when Rounds by Magic was more interesting and the woods had the footprint that you do, you would chuck her in the middle, if you could, of 2 to 3 wild woods, and you would triple cast or 4 cast with cogs, rerolling saves, and you're rousing woods. You're throwing of vines with maybe spell portal, chucking metamorphosis, keeping her, trying to keep her alive in the back, screened off by dryads. And she can do a little bit of that still, but not even remotely as well. And the game has more damage output, more ranged output. She's not.
Joking aside, she's one of the coolest models they made.
Yeah.
Just ever. She's
Absolutely.
absolutely gorgeous. The beetle's amazing. She looks incredible. Like Ilaria herself is so gorgeous. It is an absolute pinnacle of model making. Okay, this is what part of the reason we all play this game is because we love these little plastic toys.
Yeah.
And her model is so beyond gorgeous, right? And it is a tragedy. joke aside, I know we have this ongoing little joke, but I really hate that she doesn't get played and I don't get to see her on the table. Because
man.
if you're playing this army of her, you should want her on the board. Like Ironjaws aren't, they Ironjaws aren't always not putting mega bosses on Maw Crusher on the board. They're defining centerpiece, right? And
Right.
are there armies without it? Sure, of course, and they're perfectly fine, and that's great. I'm not saying she should be in every force. I'm saying
Sure.
she should be a completely viable option.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
she is not.
Absolutely.
So,
Like comparatively, yes.
yes.
So another, we mentioned healing a while back. I wanted to bring that up. I think then she said that
She's
if
on
you're hit,
Can I ask a question real quick? Is she on 150 mil round?
The 160.
160.
160. That's what it is.
She's on the mega boss's base.
Yeah, the biggest one. Well, outside of
Outside
a bigger one.
Yeah, outside of the non-existent bigger base. Yes.
Right. Yeah. The big dragon or whatever. No. So you mentioned healing in the hero phase, and yeah, that's certainly what I've found. If your durability is coming in the form of healing in the hero phase, you might have a problem. So this army can have real issues with durability. Yeah, it has Kurnoth that are rerolling saves. Tree Lords, Ancients, Durthu die easily. Valerial, Drycha, all the big boys or girls die easily. Dryads outside of their -1 to hit die easily. Even with that, there's a lot of things in the game that can blow through them. Everything else dies. Army doesn't have that much durability, really. Verdur's Harmony can bring back D3 models. That's not many. It can bring back a Kurnoth. That's nice. It's a 7 to cast though, so it's not that reliable unless you're stacking Throne, which you're not because of unless you're anyway. So how do we get what are your guys' thoughts on getting more durability? Which generally I would say the army needs more durability than relying on its healing mechanic right now. Should it be replenishing models? Should it be like if you're within range of a Wildwood, you get to bring every model in range of Wildwood gets to heal a wound within a certain range, or gets.
My answer is I think I solved it with the Kurnoth. That's your answer.
I would say this, like Tyler, I don't disagree with you. If there was ever an army that should be regrowing models, it should be Sylvaneth.
Mm-hmm.
Because like even death, like I know like raising more undead. Well, like where are those coming from? Are there more bodies? Like I don't know.
Sure. Where are all these bodies? The soil, an inch down in the soil in the mortal realms, apparently just bodies all the way down. Yes.
All the way down. Whereas like Sylvaneth, like legitimately they could be regrowing, especially if they're near their own wildwoods.
Right.
And so like I would be okay with some type of like model regen in the army.
Sure.
I know I understand Vince's statement about Kurnoth, but
if you want the regen aspect turned up,
yes,
then the answer is in somewhere, and I don't know where you stick this, but
sure.
Somewhere you give them the Be'lakor ability from the Legion of the First Prince.
Sure.
Which is you spend a command ability and you roll for every unit of X, Y, and Z on the table, and on a 3+ you heal D3 models.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right, and it's one command point to do it board wide. Like that's Be'lakor's army in the Legion of the First Prince.
Mm-hmm.
His is restricted to all like the keyworded of Bloodletters and Plague Bearers and Daemonettes and horrors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you can do everything in Chaos, but
right.
You can do Seeker Chariots, as I pointed out, or Blood Crushers, or whatever, because those all still have the keyword.
Yep.
So in the same way here, I would just restrict it to whatever you feel is appropriate to do. Like, certainly the Tree Revs, the Spite Revs, and the Dryads at minimum, and probably the Kurnoth as well, because it would be... And because it's not automatic, you're still making it on a 3-up, and it's a command point, it's army-wide, probably, and again, I don't know where this happens. Does it happen in a battalion? Does it happen? I wouldn't want it to be in one of the groves. I know that for sure, because I wouldn't want to limit it off like that.
Yeah, you don't do the builds.
It could be on a particular hero, like that could be Alariel's new command ability. That might be too much to pack onto her. Just mean like the only way to get that getting her might kind of suck. You could, there's places you could put it, but it should show up somewhere. There.
Yeah, that sounds like, to me, I would put on the Truelet Ancient. The Truelet Ancient is the sort of centerpiece, non-name character war scroll of the army. It's sort of I'd say this, the leader centerpiece of the army.
Sure. Sure.
And right now, He the Spirit Song reroll one save that used to be better. It doesn't seem to be that interesting in the game, particularly when you're starved for CP right now. So maybe other ways anyhow, yeah, that might be interesting.
Yeah. And that would really hit your regeneration because, again, it would be just pulsing out every turn. All your units are getting a bite at this apple. Would it always happen? No, but like 3 up tends to be a nice number. It's kind of the prayer number. Feels relatively balanced and good. You know, like that to me would be the right way to go the regeneration angle.
Yeah. There's a few obvious ones in terms of like micro details. Probably the thing that everybody has talked about is the True Ancient needs to be a 2-cast and 2 unbind. That has systemic issues that creates systemic problems with the book. That the True Ancient is not 2-cast unbind. Again, it'd be nice, massive healing talent, make that a 5-up. I don't know, do something that doesn't just make it completely random and almost never come up in any of your games. There's the ongoing durability issue with True Lords, True Lord Ancients.
Let me jump in on the double the double cast of the True Lord Ancient. I was against this for a long time. Okay. Because I don't like the idea of just everything in the freaking game becoming a double caster.
Okay.
All right, and triple caster and whatever.
Okay.
I just because I would just rather most casters were single casters. I'll be completely honest. Okay. It just feels like it keeps Magic more under control.
Well, this Pandora box has been opened already.
Which is why I'm about to change my statement. Okay?
Yes.
Let me get there. All right? Because clearly, we're just going to hand this double cast to everybody and triple cast and quadruple cast. Right? We can't stop ourselves. So at this point, the genie's out of the bottle. Like, yes, it's inexcusable at this point. At this point, with what we've made double casters in the game, it is madness that thing is not a double caster. If you would have went back a year, I would still be of the same opinion, right? Because like the number of double, triple, and quadruple casters that have been injected into the game, or even like triggered double casters, things that if they once a game they can double cast, or if they roll this they can cast again, or whatever. Right. The number of those things that have been injected into the game is madness. So I guess this is just what we're doing now.
Yeah. So for better or worse, and
this is what we're doing now.
I think about Warp Seers. I know there can be challenges making cross comparisons, but look. At least in my view, the Vermin Lords, 2 cast, 2 unbind, 5+ feel no pain. 12 wounds. Okay, that definitely really helps with their durability, especially on a Warp Seer that's rerolling saves.
Sure.
That's probably too much, but at least that one's a little higher in the point value relative to the Corruptor and whatever. So 5+ feel no pain for True Ancient, for Dearth. I mean, you're either going to have to keep... So, like, again, Durthu started at 400. He's now 300. Yeah, you can see lists like triple Durthu, a Lariol, or triple Durthu, some bodies, Harvest Boon, Greenwood Gladius +2 attack, Harvest Boon artifact +1 attack, whatever it is. Reroll ones to hit built in on the charge from Harvest Boon, and then, of course, Gyre Strike. Here's my big 3 Durthus with artifacts. I'm going to go to town on you and hope that I get stomps off, play the stomp game. But, I mean, that's cool. That's fun. That's not necessarily... a good answer.
Sure.
It doesn't say anything about the durability problem other than chucking more Durthus at opponents. So anyway, what do you guys think about the ongoing durability problem with the big guys, girls, Ancient, True Lord, Durthu?
Well, I generally hate overwhelming amounts of durability because it makes the game boring. So it says most people. Okay, because it's going to be no fun even for you, Tom, when everybody has just hit that durability level and we all show up at a game and roll dice to each other for 2.5 hours and nothing changes and then we go home. That is truly the worst case scenario. Like too much defense creeping too much offense creeps in the meta. Everybody shows up, blows up everybody else's models. We all kill each other and have a good time. Yeah, and that's it. And we all go home and like. Models died, we rolled dice for a purpose, game states changed, and things occurred.
Sure.
The game gets too high D on D. What happens is we show up, I roll dice at you, you roll dice at me, nothing changes, 2.5 hours pass, and then we pick up our toys and go to the next stupid table where we do that again. And
Right.
that is patently worse.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, that being
So
said,
yeah.
that being said, okay, I'm susceptible to what you're laying down here, right? Which
It
is
just
that
look at
these
yeah,
special big tree pieces who clearly seem to be like they're supposed to be tough, they're supposed to
yeah.
be ancient, right? But they're not. My answer would be leave them with the mortal wound Achilles heel, but
Mm-hmm.
make them better on their actual saves by just having like the ancient, the regular tree lord, and Durthu all just naturally uh re-roll all their saves or something like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or
So that
even again, even maybe even a 2+ save base, as long as there's not a way to bump that to 1+,
I'm
and
very
then you're
against the 2+ save for anything except the steam
anything.
tank.
Okay. Well, it's certainly something that they
You're
have.
made of wood. That is a tank made of steel. If
Fair
it's
enough.
not a 2+, you're not a 2+. That's the
Right.
rules. I
Uh,
read the Three Little Pigs, and the House of Sticks gets blown down. All right, come back when
uh,
you're made of bricks, and we'll talk
yeah.
about your 2+.
Well,
But
reroll saves would get the job done.
yeah, like so I think just making them 3 rep rerollable. Sure, so they're very resilient,
Yeah.
especially to like low rend attacks.
Yes.
Cool, like that's a
Yeah.
neat thing.
Yeah.
I think that would be good. Oh, that's a really nice suggestion. I gotta shout out Manny Walters here in the comments, who
Mm-hmm.
said they could have an exception to the cover rule where they could actually gain cover in wildwoods because they are trees amongst trees. That could be
Yeah.
a good solution. That's kind of a cool. That's a cool thing. I dig that. I like
Sure.
that.
I can see that.
You could even make them. Well, if we want to go super far, this might be too far, but okay. You could effectively give them almost like a version of the garrisoning rules in the woods, right? Where when they step into the woods, they effectively garrison the woods, so that they are -1 to be hit and +1 to save.
Mm.
But they also can treat all of the woods as like something they can see out of. It would be really weird when melee attacks come back on them because then you could attack them if you touched any part of the woods. So I mean, like it would. I'm just saying, like something like that
Yeah.
could be an interesting direction to go. There's obviously a lot
Yeah.
of rules, picadillos, but like it would make sense that they would literally possess the woods they step into.
Right. Right. Yeah, that because I don't think they necessarily need a lot more durability, but just a little bit. Well, if you take the TLA right now, you're, in my opinion, you're taking the ancient, in particular outside of Dreadwood, principally for the auto wildwood.
Yep.
You generally need that, and yeah. So even if he dies later on, it's not necessarily the end of the world as long as you can get that wood out before he dies. And then yeah, Durthu again. You can get durability in the form of 3 Durthus, but that doesn't really seem. But yeah, it's not going to necessarily take a lot. The other thing with Durthu is his damage. I mean, he drops off, of course, by 50%.
Way
Or
too
yeah,
fast.
yeah,
Way
immediately.
too fast.
It's 3 wounds, and his
Correct.
output is cut in half.
Yep.
Um,
I do not like that his sword, which is like one of the coolest, again, super cool model, super cool looking dude, cuts an
hmm,
awesome silhouette on the board with that big old sword,
Yep.
and
yeah.
like chopping for 6 is real scary, and then he gets 3 wounds on him, and it's like, okay.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be a way of helping with. I mean, that might be an answer to, instead of increasing durability, increase offensive output.
Sure,
Or
absolutely. With him,
reliable.
it feels like that would be the right answer
Yeah.
because that's what he's like. If anything, the ancient is meant to be survivable and a better caster, and that would be his role, and
Right.
Durthu's meant to be your bully that goes and punches stuff in the face real hard.
Yeah.
And again, this is another classic case when you look at Durthu's damage chart. It's another classic case of that symmetry coming into play because he goes 6, D6, 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 D3. I used the wrong fingers for that. Sorry, 6, D6, 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 D3. Whereas it should have been, they looked at that and they were like, perfect balance. When what it should have obviously been is 6, 6, D6, D6, D3. Right? Because then at least he'd have to go to 5 wounds before he started dropping off in damage. Right?
Right. Right.
So,
Tree Lord, you want to talk about him?
I want to talk about the Tree Lord so bad, buddy. I super do. That's not even a joke. Okay? What are Tree Lords right now? 160? Is that
180.
right? 180.
Yeah, 180. They started at
Too
220.
expensive.
Yeah, 2016. I think they were 240. Anyway, they're now 180. 240
That is-
or yeah.
that's good comedy right there. 240 for this guy. All right. The problem with the Tree Lord is he sits right in the space of what we were talking about earlier. He is worthless, right? And I don't mean that in any way of like his points per value or what he can accomplish or whatever. Because I actually like some of his abilities. I'll come to that in a second.
I would say the principal reason that you're taking him is for the 75% chance at a stomp.
Yep, that's exactly right.
50 to 75. Yeah, go for the double stomp.
Yep, he has an extra stomp. You know, and look, that stomp ain't bad.
Yeah.
Right? It's really not. Like you have it's at the start of the combat phase, so other ASF people will jump around you and you know, hit you before you can stomp them. So that's fine. That can happen, right? But at the same time, his damage is so very swingy, right? Because it's, you know, only Negua and Rend, and yes, it's D6. So sometimes he'll actually roll up and do a fair bit of damage, especially if he's low on wounds. And sometimes he'll roll up and just do absolutely nothing.
I think on average you're looking at like 5.5 against a 4-up save, with no special, you know, reroll ones or win or leaf exploding sixes or anything. It's like, yeah, it's around 5.5.
Right.
Which for a 180 point model is pretty lame.
Feels underwhelming for the same cost as another unit. Yes, that feels underwhelming, right?
Yep. Or almost 20 spites.
Yeah, sure. So like, beyond the fact that the Tree Lord has foundational problems, as all monsters of his ilk do, we discussed it in detail earlier when we got into it, right?
Yeah.
Is that like, when I say he's worthless, I mean in the meta concept of the game. He's bad at taking objectives. He's bad at dealing damage. He doesn't have any functional purpose, right? Whereas a hero in certain objectives will win those games, but will always be able to fire off command abilities or cast spells or do other things that are useful, right? Even if you're not on Places of Arcane Power, Duality of Death, or something like that where you need to have a hero, they're still running around doing command abilities and making people, you know, not flee to Battle Shock and reroll ones to hit. Just useless stuff. Useful stuff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize. Right? Whereas regular monsters like this just don't do anything. Like, he has the stomp, as you mentioned, right? And that's kind of it. He's kind of mobile, and then he can kind of walk around through woods in addition to your other wood walking.
Yeah, he's a free teleport,
which is cool. That's a cool thing.
Free teleport combo with the limitation of only being able to teleport one non-tree rev, non-tree lord, Darthu, ancient through the woods, unless you're Dreadwood. Yeah.
Let me ask the question: should this guy just be a hero?
That would help a lot. Or I mean, you gotta, if not, really bump up his damage output, like considerably. I would think that would be my initial inclination. Make him really scary, you know, legitimately scary for 180 points. He's got a 3-inch reach, so he can swing over the top. He can be interesting. So that's nice. Keep the 4+ stomp. Again, a 4+ stomp does have. It's like playing Slanesh.
Yep.
Am I going to risk the biscuit to go up that keeper, even that Exalted Deathbringer Chariot, which screwed me with Ilariel? They rolled the 5+. Crap, I'm screwed. You know, so that's a legitimate threat that can change your opponent's decision making. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say maybe bump up the damage.
Yeah, I think there's one of two ways to go. Let's do a little thought experiment here. I'm going to add the keyword hero, okay, onto this guy's scroll. Okay, but he's not going to take up a leader slot.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? He's like Karnak or, you know, these other heroes. Okay.
What does that do for him?
He can now actually use all, like, I'm not going to give him a command ability.
And you're not going to give him an item because other people are going to have your items.
Maybe not. He could take an item now. That's a thing that he could now do. Whatever. We're doing a thought experiment here, okay?
I know.
What it gives him is the ability to take an item and to use command abilities. Okay? He's not taking a leader slot, so I'm not changing that around, right?
It makes lords of the clan more interesting, the battalion, where you have to take at least one tree lord.
is he now worth 180 just by that addition because he actually has some utility, because he can cheaply follow. He's a cheap option that's certainly tougher than most of your other heroes.
Yeah.
That is to say, at that points value, at a sort of toughness per raw point, right?
Yeah.
To follow around your units that you need to be like supporting, as you mentioned. Like obviously,
And
Kurnoth can be anywhere and just absorb people.
How many wounds is he?
12 wounds on a 3-up save.
Yes. I would even still be tempted to bump him down to 160.
Sure, I could see that argument.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But I could see him at 180 in some builds. Is he gaining a command ability or not?
No. I mean, he can use all the standard command abilities, but I'm making him like a Karnak type hero, where he has the hero keyword, he can use that stuff, but he's not a leader, so he has no printed command ability on there.
Honestly, if we were rewriting, like I would much rather drop him down to 10 wounds and take him off the chart, like the here's another parallel, like the
Make him the Llama Cat or the Ogrite, the Formerite Crusher, or something like that.
Well, no, I was even going to cite from Daughters of Cain, the Idol of Cain.
Oh, sure.
The Avatar of Cain, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like sitting around that 8 to 10 wounds, no profile.
Yeah, but I mean that thing never gets played, so I'm not sure it's the best comparison.
But that's my point, is that you're already playing in that space. Like like it doesn't hurt to actually like design into that and then try to make that worthwhile.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I take back the idea of necessarily going to damage output, because I mean that's Dorothy's territory.
Right.
So that's not really a good answer either.
Let him be utility. Let him be a durability utility piece at 160.
Sure. And then like to me, I don't hate the I don't hate the idea of him being that kind of a hero. Classically, this should be a hero. It feels like something that's heroic. Because it is this big sentient single creature, right? Whatever we've defined hero as in this game, it feels like he's in the qualified space for it. But he himself is not leading forces, hence no leader, right? That's where my brain is at. If you wanted to give him some other interesting thing, you could give him a small utility piece where it's not a command ability. Give him like the little Skinky Priest type abilities where, at this turn he can do this thing and pick a unit of these guys and buff them, right? Like he can pick Dryads and just make them do a thing. So he's kind of like the Dryad friend, right? He's meant to sit behind them and swing over the top and run around with them and help them be stable wherever they are, right?
Yeah.
So,
that could be interesting.
Then you hold him at 180. In the same way there's a lot of other heroes that have kind of an innate sort of synergy with particular units or stuff like that, right?
Right.
And it feels like if he was going to align with any unit, you've got Drycha aligning with the Spites, right? And it feels like he would be really good to align with the Dryads. He's a big tree, they're little trees. Yep, there you go.
I like that.
And that could be an interesting utility. Right.
So this reminds me of I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about him, but there's also the Branch Witch, which is in that same category of not really having a home at the moment.
Right.
And when I was thinking about the Branch Witch, one thing that stood out is we don't really have any synergy between the Branch Witch and the other two household units. So household, clan, or whatever they call it, there's the household, the forest folk, the outcast, these different subcategories. Witch, Tree Lord, and Tree Revs are in household. You got a battalion, but Branch Witch doesn't have any synergy on the table with those two.
Right.
So that seems, it could be a really good opportunity. The narrative is a Branch Witch is the one that is there to use her scythe to recover the, what do they call it? The Lamentiri, like the soul essence. Yeah, and then to replant them in soul pods. So I would think, well, maybe the Tree Lords and the Tree Revs would get buffs by protecting the Branch Witch if she's in range of them. Yeah, because they would rather lay down their lives so that she could recover them rather than her dying. She's the linchpin.
Yeah. She's the whatever the model is out of 40K that walks around and grabs gene seeds. That's what she is.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is, I don't know. I don't know 40K Space Marine things. So
apothecary.
Hey, there you go. Okay, apothecary. Yeah, I just know that that thing exists.
Yeah.
So there you go. Oh, yep, there you go. Somebody actually said she's an apothecary in the comments right there. That's funny. And that was before probably they heard us say it. So
Right.
Um,
You can maybe make her a little punchier in combat. Which seems a little, I don't know. I guess that's appropriate. Make her a little bit more punchy as a wizard.
that
Maybe
they're never going to be. I don't care. Their melee should always be
yeah,
unimpressive, and so there you
yeah,
go.
that's fine. It's like whatever. Yeah. Dryads seem pretty solid to me. Spite solid. Tree revs should be threes to hit, I think. I don't really get why they're fours to hit. They're supposed to be the equivalent of, what they call like the echoes of the protectors of
Mhm.
old. So thinking of Sisters of the Watch, thinking of what are those, Blackguard, the Phoenix Guard, threes, threes.
Sure. And you're
That,
still getting
that
what, 5 wounds for 80 points?
5 wounds, 80 points. Yeah, 2 attacks each.
Yeah. I mean,
2 damage on the champ.
I don't think moving them to threes and threes in any way breaks the game. Like,
No, yeah,
yeah, it's fine.
but
I'm with that. I mean, they're also on a 5-up save, so like, yeah, they're
exactly. So but it would make 10 tree revenants actually interesting because
Mhm.
you could put +1 attack on them. They got a 6-inch pylon, so you could do pylon tricks.
Mhm.
You potentially finish a charge, 1 mile, 1/2 inch on a corner, put the rest outside of whatever the pylon plus reach range is. So if it's 2-inch reach with a 3-inch pylon, put them outside of 5 inches. And then that way you can potentially save them. You don't have to activate them first, and they can't die in the meantime. Yeah, you could actually you have enough output, I think, with threes to threes. But right now, it's not good enough for the point investment, or at least for 10 of them. And then 5 of them can often do absolutely nothing. Like they're not a reliable way to kill a Valkyrie hero,
Right, sure. Of
with just
course.
5 of them. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. All right. So, what is there anything else? I mean, I think this is all positive stuff. The question is, at the end of this, we can get lost in the details. So, I want to kind
Mm,
of swing back up to the top, right?
sure.
Which is, to me, the sort of fundaments here isn't that they lack good bones. I think the bones of this are relatively strong. I think what they seem to lack, at least in my estimation, is like the proper, how do I want to say this? It's not really shenanigans. It's the proper ability to compete in the spaces they need to compete in.
Mm,
Everything they can do is just a little bit worse than everybody else who's doing that thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They can shoot, but it's pretty bad, and they often block them stuff themselves up.
Should the Wildwoods not block our line of? Well, I guess if you remove the Wildwoods, you take that away, except for that
Correct.
initial one.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now, yeah, they block our own damn spells. You have to be right next to the model you want to heal with regrowth, within an inch of it in the wood to see it.
Yeah. I mean, yes, obviously there should be some change of that where like certain models are ignoring it or whatever. Or yeah, I mean, it's so silly. The woods are just like a pile of silliness sitting on. It's a 7-layer dip of bad.
Right.
Okay, and every layer you dig into with that nacho is just more and more bad.
Yeah.
Um,
We haven't talked about CP generation. I mean, that's another thing that is holding it back right now. Like, if you actually just had a way to give us a few more CP, that would help our competitiveness a fair amount. That would make a difference.
mhm, mhm.
But we're pretty starved for CP right now. At best, you're doing 4 CP. You're buying one. You're taking like a double outcast, and you're getting one first turn. And
Yeah, I mean that could be, by the way, just like so. If it was me, we'd take the woods and I'd cut the arouse the woods thing, and I'd cut the you charge into it and you get damage, because
mm,
I hate rules like that. I hate little things that you just forget. I
right,
those need to be just, if I was editing, I'd just be like nope, nope, nope. I'd be striking through all sorts of stuff like that. These random little triggers of occasional value, get rid of them. I don't need
yeah,
them. I want stuff that's at the top of mind. I do not want. Okay.
yeah,
So just like right away, fire that off the roof. Um, I would also get rid of, by the way, the places of power thing out of there, that like you can pick a certain thing, and
mm,
you're just immune to battle shock around it, which drives me completely insane that they thought, as they were writing the allegiance abilities, hey, what if we have them affect one of the pieces of terrain that's on the board? And then
Weird.
they didn't connect the dot to go, wait a minute. What if they just make that a wood? No, instead you make it this like
oh, I
half.
see what
You see what
you're
I'm
saying.
saying?
Right, I
Like
see what
they
you're saying.
literally
Okay,
put a rule in where
yeah,
you
yeah,
pick an existing piece of terrain, and you just, for some reason, get to be immune to battle shock. Like, it doesn't need to be there. There's nothing about this army. Like, and look, I understand maybe that's sometimes useful. You can pick a big piece of terrain. You can be battle shock immune.
It's actually quite nice, with how the army plays right now.
I agree. I fire it off the roof. There's nothing in Sylvaneth that says that's appropriate for them to have, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And instead, what I would give them is something like Spirit Song, where they do have more ability to generate command points. Because with command points, you could then actually do, you can use more immune to battle shock if you need to, right? Yeah. But you also can do other things as well. And like, by the way, this is where I would stick Spirit Song. Mm-hmm. Spirit Song would be a command point thing, okay? And if I was, I'll write this off the top of my head. So here's how I do Spirit Song. In the first round, the Spirit Song is weak. At the start of your first battle round, your turn in the first battle round, you get an extra command point on a 5-up. In round 2, it's 4-up. In round 3 and beyond, it's 3-up.
Okay, that's interesting.
Right? And it's just like, as they get more in tune, they're able to generate more, like, they're able to command each other and be more in sync. Because that's what Spirit Song is supposed to be, right? It's all of them harmonizing together, and like as that chorus grows. So increasing their command points through that mechanic actually makes sense to me, right? And you could play with that number if you don't like my exact spread, but you get the basic concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it seems like it'd be really nice to have a core mechanic around Spirit Song that's really meaningful.
Yeah, and generating command points seems to be something, 1, this army really needs, 2, this army would really want, and 3, which would also then help cover the battle shock thing I just jettisoned that made no sense and doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, that's nice. One thing that we haven't talked about is, surprisingly, is bows, the eternal debate on bows, which they are... I'm sorry. I mean, they're mostly useless right now, in my opinion. I know Chris Welfare loves them and was talking them up on his Mortally Wounded podcast, and it's this eternal debate. But at 200 points, they're just entirely unreliable. They have lookout, sir. They get locked up in combat. Yada yada yada. It's like an endless list of crap.
Sure.
But there's still the ongoing issue of Cities of Sigmar with the Huracanum, which was the original reason, as far as I can tell, why bows went up. Went from 180 to 200 in 2017 or 2016 GH, whatever it was, 2017 GH. So what do we do to bows?
We move them down 20 points.
180. Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
do they still have their line of sight blocked by their own woods?
Let's say no.
Okay.
180 and their own woods don't block their line of sight. How about that? How's that strike you?
That seems reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I like their numbers being where they are. The bows do work. It's just you're very likely to get yourself into a situation where they don't.
Yeah.
Right? That's the problem. Like, when you're able to actually bring that firepower to bear, it can do some good work. The problem is just how often that doesn't end up happening. Like, they have a heck of a range. 30 inches is not a short range. That is a very, very long range gun. That outranges most KO weapons. Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, their range is really good. Yes, they hit on 4s, but yes, there are ways that you can play and mitigate some of that and have some rerolling shenanigans and whatever, and attacks and yada yada. So, like, it's not that there's nothing you can do with that number.
Yeah, I think it does. To me, it does mostly come down to the fact that you can no longer just put them in woods and screen them and have them as a threat, as a swingy threat. Yep. Especially when you combine real ones to hit from the Arch Revenant, that would be Holy Than 12.
I still think ultimately the shooting strat, like bunkering in a woods and sitting there shooting people, is not a great way to win games, right? Like, like ultimately most games just don't get won like that.
Yeah.
So moving them to 180 and letting them shoot out of their woods seems like a fair, square deal to me, right? Then they would have a purpose. They can be a bunker unit that sits back there and protects and provides some artillery fire, effectively, the Sylvaneth version of that, for a sort of mixed arms where you've got other things going up front.
Yeah, I used to use them a lot as frontline anvils, as additional frontline anvils. Meaning, but that was in a game where it was easier to keep them in teleport range of the woods. You were not limited to one teleport. You were not dealing with Lookout Sir. You're not dealing with having to have them locked up in combat, shoot at the unit that they're engaged with. Anyway, I mean, the games are different now, so I don't know if that would work as well. But I mean, generally that would help.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the simple answer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You fix the fundamental flaw and you change their points slightly, and there you go. And they're perfectly viable as an interesting choice.
Right.
So, all right. Anything else we want to say about Sylvaneth, gentlemen?
No, I mean, I think I think a lot of that captures a lot of the issues. I mean, I think a lot of the solutions, the problems sit in Kurnoth, and I just think Kurnoth aren't in a good spot.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, just to get it back to where it's a viable combined arms army would be nice.
Well, it feels like that's kind of what it was meant to be when you look at the scrolls.
Yeah.
Right? When you, again, because it does feel like a jack of all trades type of army where it wants to be doing a lot of things. The problem is right now it really can't push into any of those and be good at any of those. That's what I'm saying. Like, somebody is always beating it on multiple fronts at the same time.
Yeah, and its dominant competitive play style right now is a bit of a house of cards.
Sure.
Too much of a house of cards with what it relies upon. Yeah, the sequencing events that need it. I mean,
you
you
also
don't.
have sort of express challenges that'll probably arise in the meta where you have really strong saves coming into the meta, which highly lowers the value of spites. Right?
Sure.
Like spites do well in a low armor meta. Then that's a big power piece right now. That's gonna the more 3-up, blah blah blah, high defense, rerollable saves there are. Spites value just drops like a rock. I mean, I know they're super cheap, but they're just super cheap dead guys. Because if you bounce them up against OBR or some of the different defensive things out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's not a lot of ways to generate mortal wounds, particularly just range mortal wounds in the army. That was a nice change with swords, popping the 6s in addition, 6s to wound as immortal in addition to regular damage. That's nice with Carnival Bowers, reroll all wounds, so you have more chance to generate the mortals there. But yeah, not a lot of ways to cost effectively generate mortal wounds in the army right now, particularly from ranged. So yeah, that's something of a challenge.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think we did it. We fixed Sylvaneth. There you go. Side note: I would love to hear people. You're doing some TTS games. See if you can convince people to let you try the alternate woods thing.
Yeah, I will.
And see how much of an effect that has on the game. And anybody out there in the audience, I would love if you're getting a TTS game or a game in real life. Talk to your opponent if they're your friend and say, hey, here's this crazy thing. It's not the official rule. We just kind of want to give it a try because Vince at Warhammer Weekly is wanting feedback on this. So play a couple games. I really, really, really am legitimately curious to understand how this plays because everything's good in theory, but that's, where the rubber meets the road is where it want to be tested. So,
Sure.
I've got a Sylvaneth force right there all decked out and ready to go. Which, by the way, I would play if the woods were jettisoned as a concept. I really love my Sylvaneth army that I painted. I never play them because I refuse to play with the woods in the way they're played. Right. That's it. They are allies for my Cities of Sigmar. They are a living city army. There you go. That's the right way to say it. Only. That's it. Yeah. I will never use them for anything else until I fix the wood problem.
Yeah. Right. There's still the issue of the magic getting shut down.
Sure.
At least right now with the way that Wildwood generation works. Acorn, Holy Within 12, very limited footprint range. Ancient, you only get one. If you have 2 ancients, you're not getting 2. While you only get 1.
Yep.
And then so you're still stuck generally with the need for like Spell Portal or at least Bellwind to make it Holy Within 30 to get those woods out. But yeah, it might help. It does. It helps on the opponent zoning issue.
I would be really interested to see just what that one changed does.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean that's science, right? Like you don't change 50 variables to do an experiment. You change one, and you see what happens, right? And if I was going to change one variable, that would be the one, and I'd see what the difference became.
Yeah, I'll give it a go, man.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I hope it was fun. Tyler, brother, as always, absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Hey, glad to have you on. I'm glad we were able to talk trees. I do love this army. I just hate playing against it because of some of the fundamentals we've talked about. Mainly the woods. The woods. So, for all of you out there watching, I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead and hit that like button. It's as easy as moving your mouse from here over to here. Look at that. It's just here to here. Click. Just that motion. Just do that real quick. Hit that like. It helps other people find the show, and I really appreciate it because, you know, so it's always nice to grow the audience and to talk to more people and to bring more people into the hobby. So thank you very much for watching. I had a really great time on this one. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.